Welcome in, everybody, to our latest live broadcast. We are in the 1st of August. All right, summer is flying by. Kids are back to school, at least they are over here. And we're marching towards the holiday shopping season. Not so fast. It is August 1st, 2025. It's Friday. My name is CareyHolzman, and thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm excited about today's show because I've been wanting to get my hands on one of these for some time. This is the new Minisforum N5 Pro NAS. And why I'm so excited about it is I like a lot of the stuff Minisforum is creating, from their portable screens and tablet, to the variation of all the different mini PCs they make that think outside of the box. A lot of mini computers, you can't tell one from another. And Minisforum has some that nobody else has got anything like them. So certain models of Minisforum really stand out as being different and not just cookie cutter copies of their competitors or vice versa. And I expect more of the same from Minisforum. If they get their hands into anything, that they're going to change it up a bit. And that's why I'm so excited about looking at the NAS. I haven't ever seen a perfect NAS in my entire career. There's always trade-offs, and it depends on how you're going to use it, how much money you've got to spend, and then what you're willing to sacrifice. So whether it's manufacturers like Synology with drive restrictions that are easily worked around, or Ugreen that doesn't have a guest account, or TerraMaster that can be a little bit lacking in setup configuration. The software just needs a bit more polishing. They're getting better all the time. ASUS Store, which really doesn't offer much in the way of NASs. It seems like they haven't introduced a new model of regular hard drive based NAS in some time. And then of course there's QNAP. QNAPs tend to be quite pricey. I would put them second to Synology. I've got some QNAPs deployed out to some client locations in Synology's. I have not deployed any ASUS Stores, TerraMasters, or Ugreen or anybody else into business world. So I continue to look for something competitive against those two brands. And so our friends over at Minisforum sent this to us to review. And we went and bought some drives. And I thought, you know, for what the drives cost, we'll start with 3 26 terabyte drives. This should hold up to 5 mechanical drives, so that'll give us like 130 terabytes of total storage. And we have another NAS to review next week, so we may end up pulling the drives out of this and comparing the two. Another new brand, first generation. This is first generation. I don't really expect them to be, you know, hitting a home run first time up at bat, but I am looking for better first generation product than what I've seen, so for example, from Ugreen. That left me very disappointed because the flaw in that without the guest account makes it completely useless for myself and my customers' needs and how we use these. Now, that being said, how you use it may be entirely different than how I use it. And maybe you wouldn't even use a guest account. You wouldn't even notice it was missing. But that is a deal breaker right out of the gate. And with no reassurance that they would be adding that, we just returned it because I'm not going to sit on it hoping one day they get around to doing it. If they do, or if they have already and I don't know, we'll certainly bring it back and reevaluate it. However, let me just say this. If I find my perfect NAS, anything else is a curiosity. Like when I find what's perfect for the needs that myself and my customers have, regardless of who makes it, why would I want to replace that? But I'd still be curious, you know, what the competition is doing. So right now, with modification, we use the Synology. If we didn't have to modify it, we could still use a bit more processing power and speed than we get out of Synology. But it seems like we're sacrificing one thing for something else. And I don't see any reason why somebody just can't come out and do it right. Man, I am hoping. This really impresses me. Or I'm about to be very disappointed. If I thought I was going to be disappointed, I wouldn't even be bothered. But I'm really looking forward to this because the amount of processing power this has is insane. Like for a NAS, I've never seen anything like this. So we're going to talk about that today and evaluate this live. This has been sitting here for a few days. just teasing me. I have wanted to open this and play with it so badly, but I have exercised self-discipline so that we can share this experience together. So you and I can experience the unboxing and setup of this with absolutely no foundation or reference point of what really to compare it to, because Minisforum likes to do their own thing. And we're going to stumble through this and we'll figure out how intuitive it is. And remember, again, it's a first generation product, so I'm hoping for the best. I'm ready for the worst, but I'm hoping for the best. And I really do hope this is everything I think it can be. That being said, hello to everybody joining us in the chat. Hello to all the members, all my friends here. And thank you guys for being members and supporting us here. The drives that we bought, we purchased those drives. They're $300 a piece plus sales tax, $310, and we needed 5 of them. So, you know, we're into this quite a bit of money. However, we will use the drives in other NASs, as I mentioned. So we should get some mileage out of them, you know, here for the channel. I anticipate we're going to see a lot more network attached storage on this channel as more and more manufacturers jump on board. That seems to be the running trend, and I'm happy to see it. The more the merrier. Bring it on, is what I say. Now, before the show, our friend Buster sent both a contribution and an Amazon gift card, and thank you so much for all the support and kindness from our friend Buster, joining us out there in Scotland, Bonnie, Scotland, where he usually gives us the weather report. Let's see. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland, he says. The temperature in Edinburgh today, 61 degrees Fahrenheit or 16.1 degrees Celsius. Right on. Thank you, Buster. And of course, our friend Luke Greenia joining us from Vermont with a PayPal super chat or PayPal contribution. Thank you, of course, to Luke and to Buster. I see Gregory, just says Gregory. Gregory contributes $10. Is that Gregory Howard? Can't see the name. He says, here's my early fee. Thank you, Gregory. And hello to Dustin Fuller, Eddie Casanova, Mortant, and Scott. I also see Jim Kenny joining us along with Steve Chappelle and Doman 2000, 3D Everything. Mark Leibowitz out there in Chicago joining us says hello. Ryan saying hello. There's Andy W6AD. Andy says, I am joining you today using the Wowie P5 mini PC that I reviewed on 12th of March. It runs fine, still runs fine after 4 months of daily use. We appreciate the follow-up on that. That's a brand we weren't too familiar with, but you know, the best way to test these brands and give them a fair trial, if you will, is to have somebody using them every day, which is not possible for us to do. So we appreciate when you guys step up and, you know, should you decide to buy something we showcase here, to share your experience with us, your opinions of it for better or for worse, especially as you live with it day to day, because that's really where the true valuable reviews are, right? Not just some content creator who plays with it for a few days, somebody who has to live with it and spent their own hard-earned money on it. And that should help guide people who are also considering a mini PC or whatever we're talking about, a router or NAS, to consider from an actual end user and not a professional reviewer. Dazzle555 says hello, and I also see Ben Laird joining us from Scotland as well. Richard DeFry says hello. Mark Gaines joins us. Gary Tatum says hello. Bashan Guy says hello. Brian Madonna joining us. Michael Lavelle says hello, along with Frank Jimmy. Welcome in, guys. Dennis K says hello. Gilberto Colazzo joining us here in the chat room, along with David Herzog. Paul Vircher. And of course, Mara, our channel administrator. She's hanging out in there. Marlena, saying hello to everybody. So again, thank you for hanging out with me today, and I can't wait to get started. I want to start first of all by just looking at Minisforum's product page for this, so I understand and you understand what this is advertised, how this is being promoted and marketed. So if we go over here to the window capture, does that turn on? There it is. They have two different versions of this NAS. They have just the regular N5 AI NAS, and this is with an AMD Ryzen 7 255, which, by the way, for a NAS, that's crazy high-end processor. This is the basic one. This is the cheap one. If you look at this one down here, the N5 Pro, this one's a little bit more money, but look at the processor, the AI9HX Pro 370. That is like on the AI X1 Pro mini PC that I was drooling over as being as quick as it was, so fast and responsive. Usually on a NAS, they put more of a budget processor. It's lower power, lower heat, and the downside of that is if you're going to run a lot of apps like virtual machine and Docker and things of that nature, then you end up with a machine that's kind of slow because your processor's slowing you down. And if you're going to run virtual machines in Docker and you want it to run quickly, you definitely need a processor that can handle that kind of workload or multiple workloads. And that's about as good as it gets right now. Anything above this, like the Strix Halo series, that's just adding more powerful graphics. So that really doesn't benefit unless you're a gamer for the most part. This does take DDR5. It'll hold a maximum of 96 gigs of RAM. It's got a 10 gig and a 5 gig Ethernet connection in the back. Pre-installed Minis Cloud OS. All right, we're going to check that out. And Docker single key installation with Oculink compatible. So yeah, if you wanted to make this a gaming machine, yeah, I guess you could put Oculink on it. I mean, I don't have any purpose for that myself, but you know, people like options. Nothing wrong with options. Take a look at some of the photos here, and what you've got here, it looks like a mini PC, and in fact, it more or less is. And that's the whole guts of the machine versus other NAS manufacturers where they build the motherboard into the side of the case like a traditional computer. Minisforum has almost made it like an expandable drawer where the guts of it just slide out. That should make it super easy to work on and expand anytime you need to without having to take the whole thing apart. I appreciate that design. I've never seen anything like that before. So once again, Minisforum continues to innovate here in ways that I never even gave that a second thought. Just going through the photos, see if I can go back one here. On the back of this, I see, oh, there's our two Ethernet ports. We've got USB, Oculink, HDMI. Looks like a USB Type-C, another USB, no, that must be a Kensington lock up there. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, on the underside, I can see the two screws that hold the little mini PC in place. Everything else looks like it all just comes right apart. This is so promising. I mean, I'm looking at this thing. I don't know if you can tell how genuine my enthusiasm is here, but I'm super excited. I could see all the potential with this, and I'm really curious where they're at in the development. Okay, are we ready? Unboxing the Minisforum NAS N5 Pro AI. This is spec'd out according to this sticker here. What we've got in the box is the N5 Pro P370, which features the AMD Ryzen AI9HX Pro 370 with AMD Radeon 890M mobile graphics. Memory says a 32 ECC plus 64 gig. 32 ECC. Did they mean did they mean MMC? Storage 1 terabyte. So that'll be on the main system itself, like the bootable drive. And then US adapter. Okay. I feel like I'm looking at a high-end mini computer. None of these specs are typical of a NAS. That's so over the top. Interesting, they have an arrow right here on the foam pointing to your right. Look, anything that helps you put it back in the box for any reason. It's easy getting stuff out of the box. Try putting it back in. I appreciate that. Not that I think we're going to put this back in ever, but yeah, that little arrow, I've never seen anything like that. That's even the packing is different. Underneath that piece of foam, we've got the mini PC. We've got a box over here, which probably has our power adapter and cables. And then it looked like we have some kind of a stand. I don't know what this is. Oh, this is the face. Okay. I see. I guess they don't ship it attached so it doesn't bump up and smack up against the unit while it's traveling, while it's in shipping. And I see some bubbling here, so that's got to be some plastic that comes out. There's the film. Get rid of that. And then is there any on the other side? At least that had a pull tab on it, so it was pretty obvious. That is a super shiny piano glossy black cover right there. It's weird the plastic was on the inside versus on the outside, which is the area you think you'd want to protect. I don't know if there's any on there or not, so looks good though. All right, getting back over to the box, let's take out the unit itself right here. Ooh, it's a little hefty. And remaining in the box, we have this box right here. And very down at the very bottom, we have another box. Oh, that's got to be the power brick. And they give you a couple little cutouts in the styrofoam to stick your fingers in to lift this out. I appreciate that. And another little arrow indicator right over here that tells us which way that goes back in if you're going to put things back in the box later. All right, so first, let's take a look at the power adapter. Now again, without the Minisforum name on this, the manufacturer of the power adapters on this, you would have no idea that this and this go together. So I would get a label maker or a silver Sharpie marker and write N5 Pro or Minisforum, just in case these two things get separated. You don't want to plug the wrong power adapter in and blow up your NAS. That would probably make for a bad day. The wattage on this looks like it's 19 volts, 280 watts, which is 14.7 amps. Standard barrel power connector. These barrel power connectors will fit into a lot of different electronic items around your house. I cannot stress enough how important it is you don't plug the wrong adapter in. So I do wish that said Minisforum on it at the very least. But we can take care of that with a label maker or a marker. In this box here, oh, look at this. We have an adapter card. And this appears to be for, well, there's an NVMe slot. What does this do? So this is going to plug in 1, 2, 3 NVMe slots. So this is converting NVMe into what looks like a serial attached SCSI, U.2. This is more, this would be like an enterprise grade adapter. Think of it that way. Which, just trying to figure out how does this go back on. And the other one? These are just little dust covers. Let me bring it up to the camera and I'll show you what this looks like. This is a pretty unique offering and it's a bit more high-end, a bit more sort of enterprise level. But you can see it, where this is going to plug in right up here. You see these NVMe's and this one down here. So that's going to plug in and replace the NVMe slots. And then in exchange, it gives you back an NVMe here. And then you get these two U.2 adapters. And then those are going to look like 2.5-inch drives, but they're NVMe. We've shown those before. They're expensive. They're pretty high end. They make those up to 32 gig capacities. They're very expensive. But here, you see the holes? Those are your mounting holes that are in the same position as any 2.5-inch drive. It's the connector that's that business end that would be unusual for most home users. And then the other side, of course, is just, you know, just the back of the circuit board here. Nothing really usable for us back there. So I'm not quite sure when this would come in handy, but we'll cross that bridge later when we get to it. I've never seen a NAS in my life that takes this that isn't a rack-mounted NAS for enterprise. This is a very unique option here. And I don't know how many people would actually use this because these drives are quite expensive. They're high endurance. This is the kind of stuff, you know, Google uses and YouTube and others that have these big data centers. And so I'm just put that little dust cover back on, and yeah, I had no idea. That's really cool. All right. Like I said, I like having options. We've got some documentation in here. We've got a power adapter, which is likely for powering these drives. That would be my guess. Some screws to attach the drives that would go to this. We've got a standard PC style power connector. We've got an Ethernet cable in here. We have more screws. Likely some of these screws would be also for attaching drives into the drive bays of the NAS itself. And then we've got a standard HDMI cable. It's pretty weird to get an HDMI cable with a NAS. Okay. It's not unusual for a NAS to have an HDMI port, but it's unusual for a NAS to include an HDMI cable. And I've never personally met anybody who uses the HDMI port on the back of a NAS for anything. But you know, this is 2025. All that may change in the coming months ahead, and depending on other use case scenarios. I primarily use a NAS myself for maintaining large video data file sets that are recordings of all of my YouTube videos that I use for editing and for archiving. And when you're making videos as often as I am, and these videos run 2 to 3 hours on average at 4K, as you can imagine, they are very large files. And after doing this year after year and day after day, it adds up to be a lot of storage. And if I trust YouTube to store it for me, I never get the original quality back. And if YouTube should somehow delete my channel, or if my channel were to get hacked some impossible way, I still maintain independent copies of my original files and their original resolution. And, you know, the more you have, the more it's got to cost you to store it. And goes back to an old George Carlin joke. These days, mechanical hard drives are going to be your best bang for the buck when it comes to capacity for the dollar. The 26 terabyte drives we bought for this are not even NAS drives. They're Seagate Exos enterprise grade drives that my understanding is are very safe to use in a NAS. The Iron Wolf equivalent, which is a NAS based drive, for the same $309 is 20 terabytes. So I'm getting 6 extra terabytes for the same price. But the Iron Wolf drives, I mean, they're intended to be used in a NAS. My understanding is the Exos drives are also very robust and can safely be used in a NAS. But if what you want is ultra high speed, you're going to go with 10 gig, then it makes more sense that you would do, you know, this adapter card in the higher end, faster NVMe 2.5-inch U.2 drives. So this accommodates all different kinds of possibilities and use case scenarios. This is the most versatile NAS so far I've ever seen, as I've not seen this offered at this level before. You typically only find this kind of stuff in the really expensive rack-mounted enterprise equipment. So I'm right now just blown away. I had no idea this was in here, and I'm speculating what it's for. You get to pick if you want speed or capacity. And for me, it's all about capacity all day. Okay, let's see what the NAS looks like. Exactly like the picture. Who'd have thought? I do see what appear to be some rubber plugs that are likely covering up some screws for disassembly, although I don't know why you'd want to get into it from this side. But it's very subtle, and it looks like that. And let me clear some room off on the counter here, or at the very least, I was going to say I could leave this out so we know what we're working on today. It's probably going to fall. Here's the front of the unit, and this thing, I don't know what the weight of this is. I guess it's around 15 pounds or heavier. It's pretty heavy for an empty NAS. There's no drives in it yet, right? It's empty. Yeah, it's completely empty. Now you notice none of these trays are numbered because the tray itself should not be numbered. Anybody who has even the most minimal of understanding of a NAS knows there's no particular order drives have to go in. So I appreciate that there's no unnecessary ordering system here of these trays. You put them back to wherever you want. And if you were to have a failure on, let's say, drive 3, there's usually an indicator, like a light, that'll light up red on most NASs with the drive number. So if you had a slot here that said 3 on it, and that was pushed all the way over to the end, it would work just fine. But you'd have drive 3 in slot 5, and when you get an error that drive 3 is bad, do you look at the number here or do you look at the number here? Well, there should never be a number here. That's why. It just creates unnecessary confusion. It doesn't need to be there. And if you can imagine, if you're manufacturing these, you have to manufacture ones that say the number 1 and ones that say the number 2. It adds to your manufacturing cost. It adds to customer confusion. And it implies it's important to have them in order when you can move them around. It doesn't matter. That's just a standard RAID function. They don't need to be numbered like that. We just need to know which slot they're in. So if we get an email that says the drive in slot 3 is bad, I don't care if this says A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That it's meaningless. And the next one says H, I, J, K, L. Like, that's just completely pointless and adds to manufacturing cost. If I needed a drive tray, I could call a manufacturer or go online and find a drive tray. But if I need a drive tray that specifically has a number on it, that's just stupid. They could all say 1. They could all say 3. Seeing a manufacturer do that, and by the way, there's a NAS manufacturer that does that, to me is just basically saying they don't understand what the numbering system, how that can defeat you and why it adds extra confusion. So I'm just baffled why a company would do that. So on the inside, we've got 5 trays, right? We can take all 5 trays out of here and show you this is hollow. So if it's this heavy, hollow, geez, how heavy is it going to be once we add all of our drives in? Wow. All right, so there's the inside, right? And when you're using a NAS, you really just need to start with 2 drives. Now there does exist 1 drive NASs. That's for people who just want to run the apps and they don't necessarily want the storage. There's no backup on that. There's no redundancy is what I mean to say. So I don't know why anybody would buy that, but they do exist. Not from Minisforum, but from other manufacturers. Typically a NAS will be at least 2 drives. So you have a RAID 1 array, which means if we have 2 26 terabyte drives, we only have 26 terabytes available to us. And the other drive silently mimics and does everything the first drive does. So if either drive fails, you haven't lost anything. When you go to 3 drives, let's say we add a third 26 terabyte drive, we can now go into a RAID 5 configuration. we still lose 26 terabytes. We lose one drive. But instead of having one 26 terabyte drive with one lost, we have two 26 terabyte drives. Well, we have three 26 terabyte drives with one lost, doubling our capacity now to 52 terabytes. So if we then later we want to add a fourth drive, we don't have to do this all at once. We can expand the array another 26 or any number. It doesn't have to be 26, but ideally, to keep the math simple and to keep this explanation simple, we just keep adding more 26s until we fill it up. So if we're not needing it today, we don't have to spend the money today. We can add it later on. Drives get cheaper. Maybe even buy a 30. Maybe the 30 terabyte drives come down in price to the same price that we're paying for the 26s. So just put a 30 in there instead. No problem. That's the beauty of a NAS, is you don't have to fill these bays up. But you definitely want to start with at least two, preferably three. And you'll just lose one drive of storage capacity. Keep adding more. With RAID 5, you could go to, it's probably not smart to go above 8 drives, because now your rebuild time is probably going to take a week. However, as long as you don't lose another drive in that week, you would go to a RAID 6. RAID 6 gives you 2 drives that are unavailable for you. But at the same time, 2 drives can fail and you don't lose anything. So if while you're rebuilding a failed drive, so you've got one of these RAID arrays that has 20 drives on it, and one of those drives fails and you're on a RAID 5, which you can be, up to like 96 drives, it could take 2 weeks to rebuild that. So while it's rebuilding in that 2 weeks, should another drive fail in RAID 5, you've lost everything, and I hope you have a backup, which you should anyway. So along comes RAID 6. What RAID 6 offers you is the ability to have 2 spares. At any given time, any drive can fail. And that way, while a drive is rebuilding, should another drive fail, you're still okay. So it's really an individual decision for me personally. If I'm dealing with anything less than 8 drives, or I should say 8 drives or less, I stick with RAID 5. If we go to 9 drives or more, I would go to RAID 6. But remember, you're going to lose a full drive for that redundancy. So if these drives are $310 a piece and I got 2 of them I basically can't use, they're your spares. It's just like having a $100 spare tire in the trunk of your car. Hopefully you never need it. And you might have to replace it when it's never been used simply because it aged out. Well, in much the same way, when we're doing a RAID 5 or a RAID 6, do expect to lose the full capacity of 1 or 2, RAID 5 versus RAID 6. If you had 2 26 terabyte drives that are in a RAID 6, let's say they're in a RAID 6 and 2 are spares, that is a large amount of data that's not available, 52 terabytes that you cannot use. On the other hand, should a drive fail, and while you're rebuilding it, another drive fails, you're going to be so glad you had those 2 extra spares there, because otherwise you're going to be in a massive, messy cleanup and very time-consuming restoration. Assuming you've got a backup, it's going to be massive, and it's going to take a long time. And you're still going to have to buy another drive, or unless it's under warranty. Anyway, as you can imagine, 5 drives at $300 a piece, we're looking at about $1,500 just in the storage drives. And in the bottom of this unit, is it at the bottom? It must be when we slide the unit out. You can also add NVMe storage for quick writes and for quick reads, so that things can move along if speed is really important to you. Now, I personally don't have any use for that. The files I deal with are all huge. But if you're dealing with smaller files, documents, things like that, it can absolutely make a big difference in the performance of the NAS, assuming you're on a fast enough network that can support that. Most people have a terabyte network, a gigabit network, not a terabyte. They have a gigabit network at home. And no matter how fast the NAS is, you're not going to go any faster than your network speed. Or if you're on Wi-Fi, your Wi-Fi speed. In which case, throwing a bunch of resources into this is a waste of money, because it's like getting a high-end Ferrari and trying to drive it on public roads. You're never going to have enough empty space in a crowded city to be able to get that up to speed for any length of time. It's not the right tool for the job. So for me, just not throwing money around for things I don't need, I will plug this into the 10 gigabit connection. And we do have a 10 gigabit network here, but it's only upstairs. We haven't spread it around everywhere because it's got to be hardwired. Everything else is wireless. So we're basically running at 2.5 gig on Wi-Fi 7 with MLO, which is about as high end as you can go today on Wi-Fi. Therefore, anything this can do any faster won't be able to go any faster than the Wi-Fi, which is already the peak maximum of what we can do. It's only on the wired connections upstairs where there would be any benefit to the 10 gig connection. So keep all this in mind as you're deciding, how much do I want to spend? What do I really need? What am I going to benefit from? Same goes with RAM. I wouldn't upgrade the RAM on this unless it felt like it was getting slow for certain kinds of applications you might run. I don't run any. So this is way overkill for my needs, but this might be the reason I start. Because holy moly, this thing, the performance of this is insane. So let me just drop this down here. There should be 2 screws. Yeah, right here. Let's take them out. And let's take the mini PC out of this. It's going to look really familiar to you. This much I've seen in pictures. So with those 2 screws out, right up here towards the front, this whole tray should slide right out. Bring it down here and pull this. I think it just pulls out. Yeah, it's got like a plug-in socket there that seats really firmly. Doesn't this look like another Minisforum PC that we've looked at?
It does. Good email.
And I've got email. All right, thank you, Mara. So I'm going to just come up here to the camera so you guys get a close look at this bad boy. We've got a couple rails, so it slides in like a drawer. On the back of it, these are all the ports. Doesn't this look like other Minisforum? It looks a lot like the A2 or even the O1. But I say the A2 because it's AMD. But even the AMD A2 doesn't have the power that this has. You can see we've got our RAM sockets. There's a stick of RAM there. It's our CPU cooler. We have a slot here to add some kind of a PCIe card. Got to be a real little one. That little thing comes off. And I suppose you could plug something in there. I don't know what. Something's got to be small. And then power connector, USB. We've got a 10 gig and 5 gig, although I'm not sure which is which here. Then we've got another USB faster, the blue one. DisplayPort, HDMI, and USB Type-C. This is the heat sink for the CPU. That's where you're going to feel hot air come out of there. And the front of it, you've got indications, light indicators rather over here for the drive status, which would help if I held it right side up. That makes more sense, doesn't it? Everything's backwards, so bear with me. It's backwards to me. So power button. Come on, focus. The status of the NAS overall, that it's booted and healthy. Status of LAN connection 1, the status of LAN connection 2. And you see how it says disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, disk 4, disk 5? That's the order of the trays above it, regardless of what the trays would say. I still can't get over how dumb that is, that a manufacturer would do that. All right, Minisforum is not doing that. I'm talking about somebody else. That is, oh, and there's our NVMe drive right there, in case you didn't notice it. That's what we're booting from. Now, normally you might get a 64 gig bootable drive. The fact that they've given us a terabyte NVMe is insane. Just look up NASs and see who else gives you this kind of power in a NAS without getting into enterprise level multi-$1,000 equipment, tens of thousands of dollars. This is like a whole new level. So, and they did give us There is 2 sticks of RAM in there, so this is running in dual channel. They didn't cut any corners here. I also see there's a little flash drive, a little USB port, I'm sorry, right in here for some reason. And there's our CMOS battery right there as well. So I don't know how well the camera's picking that up. All right. Well, it's time to get started. So let's start putting everything together. Slide this piece in here. I've never seen a NAS with this design. Nothing even close. I mean, in theory, they could offer you different models that could slide in here at different price points and different performance capabilities, right? They could make this a lot cheaper or a lot more expensive. And then you're just replacing this part. You could still keep using the same drives. All that other stuff is going to be the same regardless. Think about that. Who ever thought of that before? When you replace a NAS, what a lot of people do is they buy a whole brand new NAS, the new enclosure, new power supply, everything is all new. And then they'll take their perfectly good working drives and manually move them over to the new NAS. How come nobody thought that maybe we could just swap out the compute part of it and simply make it modular? It's not like Intel didn't introduce us to that concept with the compute modules in the NUC. I'm kind of upset I didn't think of it myself. It's logical. And it seems like it offers better value and more options, more potential options in the future if they choose to, look, if this sells well, they can offer different kinds of upgrades to it in different price points, from entry level to be very inexpensive to more high end, which is what we have here with the Pro version. I'm not aware of any other manufacturer that so much as even introduced that concept. So this is when I talk about my excitement with Minisforum, how they really think outside of the box. And my reactions are genuine. Like, I know a little bit about it, but the RAM also does support ECC, so if that's important to you. It doesn't, like, my needs are not ECC. I don't need error correction memory, but some people must have it and they want to spend the money for it. That USB 4, that the Type C on the back is USB 4, 40 gigabit per second. I'm looking on the side of the box, cheating here. And of course, it holds 5 hard disk drives and 3 NVMe drives, as I just shown you. So you can max that out if you want to. So let's get started with some drives. Now, I've never used the Exos drives in a NAS before. And I ordered some. And again, I have been staring at this stuff, drooling. The sacrifices I make for you guys. How much I wanted to open this up and play with it over the last few days. That I said, no, I'm going to do everything live on camera. Show me another content creator who even shows you the box it ships in. This is reality. I hope these drives work. I have been buying nothing but recertified drives. I've never had one ever fail. I've never had one arrive bad. And they're easily $100 or more cheaper than a brand new one. I hope that trend continues. I'm buying from Amazon, so they have a 30-day return policy if for any reason they don't work. But I've always bought these Seagate Iron Wolf drives renewed. These are the Seagate Exos drives. And, they're pretty hefty. It's got a green label on it that kind of lets you know right out of the gate you don't have a standard label on here that says it's certified by the factory, not by some guy sitting in his closet, sitting in his basement. See here, 26 terabytes, factory recertified, Exos versus Iron Wolf. So this should be really interesting. New experience. All right, let's see how these work. On the side of the tray, let me bring the tray up here. I like that they give you an indication of what to do. Normally these are just blank, they don't say anything. With other manufacturers, this actually says right here, pull. And I'm guessing it'll say the same thing on the other side. So if you've never used a NAS and you're not familiar, you just grab that. Am I pulling it away or am I pulling it? Which way does it go? This way? or out. Just pull. I've got to guess it wants me to pull out. Yeah, and it'll click. It's brand new, so it's really stiff. So that cracking sound is normal. It's okay. Don't freak out. And then what we're going to do is do the same thing on the other side here. And I'm just noting it says pull right here at the end. So when I put these on, it looks like you can put them on backwards, but I want to put them back on the same way they came out, because that's just the way I am. We'll set the drive in here like this, so that the holes line up, and then these pieces, they're not side specific. You should be able to flip it around as you need to for either side. Real easy installation, no tools necessary, as it should be, because a NAS, if a drive should fail, which is the most often reason why people lose data, especially with a NAS, you need to be able to get into it quickly. So no screwdriver should be necessary. When I see a NAS that you've got to open the physical cover up to get to the drives, I won't use it. I will not refuse. You should be able to easily remove a drive tray while the unit is turned on, replace the drive, put the drive tray back in, and not interrupt anybody working in the office. They would have no idea anything is wrong. Then we can have it rebuild the drive that went bad. Then they might notice the NAS is not quite as responsive until that rebuild is complete. Depending on the size of the drive, and if you're using RAID 5 or RAID 6, this could take hours or days. The last time we upgraded to a 20 terabyte drive, we added to the RAID array. By adding a 20 terabyte drive, it took nearly 4 days of that NAS running 24/7 to rebuild and extend that RAID array to the other drive. As you can imagine, the larger the capacity gets and the more drives you have, the more likely that's going to take longer and longer. But set your expectations accordingly. Smaller drives wouldn't take anywhere near as long. So again, when we're expanding the array, it doesn't matter if it fails because we still have the spares. But if we're repairing the array and we suffer another failure while the RAID is repairing, then I hope you have backups or RAID 6. So we can choose any slot. I guess I'll start over here. Slide that in just like any other NAS, and then it just should lock right in like so. All right, one down. Now I do have a total of 5 of these drives, but I just want to start with 3. I'm so excited. The other thing I'm excited about, I've never put drives this size into a NAS before, like 26 terabytes. It's a pretty big drive. And 30 terabytes is about the maximum you can buy right now. 30 terabytes is $600 per drive. So if we did all 30 terabytes, that would cost us $3,000 plus sales tax. It's about $3,300. And then we would have 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180 terabytes, not including the NVMe storage. So that ought to satisfy your storage desires. There we go. These are very familiar. This process of using drive rails like this that snap in is nothing new. So Minisforum hasn't given us any innovation on that side of things, but it's also tried and true. You know, stick with what works. Why fix what isn't broke? You know, it's a very time-proven installation method that, again, I can't emphasize enough, is completely toolless. When time is of the essence, which way am I going with this? Putting this in backwards. I want this in with that curved edge towards the front. Like I said, I think you could turn them around the other way, but I don't want to find out. I just prefer to do them all the same. And that'll be the way they came out of the box, you know, the trays. I'll slide that one in. Like so. Perfect. We've got our third tray. Set this over here. Again, these are brand new. I don't know if anything's DOA or any problems. If you read reviews on Amazon, you'll always hear the people complaining, you know. I've never had anything to complain about, so I'm hoping I get more of the same. There we go. Look how much faster I am. I've only done 3. So a lot of my cautiousness is going to the wind here as I'm becoming more familiar with what this feels like putting it together. I was afraid I was using too much force before. Let's see, make sure these holes are lined up. There are these little rubber grommets here, and if they slide, it's going to block the hole, which is what's happening right now. That should move forward like so. Yeah, that looks good. Don't force anything. You know, take a gander and just make sure everything's lined up correctly. Especially when it's new out of the box, you don't know how it's shifted in shipping. And those little grommets, they're designed to be replaceable because they're rubber. They will dry out over time. And usually that doesn't become apparent until you need to switch the drive out. They're not absolutely required for the installation, but what they're doing is they're absorbing some vibration so the NAS won't be as loud. The bigger the drive you buy, the bigger capacity, the louder it's going to be. These things, you know, if you want something quiet and silent, you want to look at solid state storage. When you're looking at 20 terabytes, 16 terabytes, 30 terabytes, these things chatter. Chicka, 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 chicka. You're going to hear it if it's sitting on your desk. You can't not hear it. A lot of times in businesses, we put these into a closet somewhere away where people don't hear them. But don't be concerned if you hear it chattering and clicking. That's the state of large capacity drives in 2025. That's just what they do. Personally, I kind of like it because it lets me know the NAS is doing something. If I'm sitting at my desk and I've got a NAS sitting on the desk right over to my side, and I suddenly start hearing it click, 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 and I know I'm not using it, I can check and see, oh, Mara must be using it. And sure enough, that's exactly what's happening. Not that it really matters, but it's not like it's just randomly turning itself on and doing something you don't know. It's being asked to do something. And that reassures me, okay, you know, it's being used. And sometimes there may be some file maintenance things that go on, but that's usually scheduled and I know when to expect that. If it starts to appear to be busy when we're asleep, it may be that I'm running a RAID scrub or something at night. But basically there's always going to be an explanation as to why you're hearing it, not just because of randomness. Now this cover, I don't know how this goes on. I guess, is it magnetic? Oh, I'm going to say that's magnetic. Now, as you see, we've just got the 3 drives in there, and I'll just leave this off as a reminder. That is so weird. When you pull it off, these magnets here are a lot stronger. Okay, so let's plug this in and turn it on and see what it's like. I have no idea. First time for everything here. So power and network. That's all you need to plug into a NAS. 2 cables, network cable, power cable, that's it. We're going to configure everything through the web interface. If you've ever watched me do any NAS or you've watched anybody do any NAS setup, it's always the same. 2 cables, power, Ethernet, that's it. So let me grab my power cable, which is down here somewhere. Here we go. We'll plug that bad boy in right there. And our Ethernet cable, which I am standing on. Of course I am. And I don't know which one's the 10 gig. I guess it doesn't matter. Either one's fine for this. I don't have 10 gig down here. So let's turn it on. So we get a blue light that comes on right here. The LAN light is blinking. Status light is blue. And I'm imagining I'm going to hear these drives spin up. There they go. So they start to spin up and initialize. So there's going to be like a ramping up motor sound along with some chattering. That's normal and healthy. So while that boots, let me check my email and see what we're missing here. And let's see. Oh, our friend Mark Gaines sends an Amazon gift card of $50. He says, I hope you enjoy this gift card. My birthday is on Sunday, so here's a few dollars for the channel. Hey, everybody, say happy birthday to Mark Gaines. Mark, of course, joining us from Northern Ireland. And thank you for giving us the gift on your birthday. Happy birthday, my friend. Thank you. I think that's all we've got here. Yeah, this looks good. So, in order to see what's going on, we're going to need to sign into this, but we have to find it on the network first. How do we do that? Well, let's find out. I'm going to go to, let's see, there was included documentation. There's a little tiny bit, but we should be able to pull up a PDF file or something that I can share with you guys, and we can look at it together. So let me just look here at Minisforum's site and see. It's probably going to be under support. So right now I'm just looking at the main Minisforum page that we have in the links below today's video. That sit there and give you all the specs and details. If anybody is curious, you can get it straight from them. But when it comes to the documentation, Products Explorer, I'm not seeing it. Now, these are currently sold out, but they're going to be back in stock very soon, they tell me. You should be seeing them on Amazon as well as on these things have sold like hotcakes. So there must be something people like about them. It sounds like sales for this, well, I guess not. It says sales for this unit here will restart in September. So apparently there's some manufacturing that they're waiting on. And I didn't want to wait till these were available, you know, for you to buy. If it was going to take a month, we'll definitely revisit it between now and then. We'll remind you when they're available. And they might still be available other places, but Minisforum says they should be in Amazon very soon. Okay, so what I'm looking for, I think I'm just going to Google search for it. N5 Pro manual. Let's see if Google points me to it. Guess I have to put Minisforum in my search too, to be more specific. Manuals and downloads. Okay, I think this is where I want to be. So let me grab the window capture. We'll look at this together. I guess it's going to be under others. Yeah, there it is. N5 Pro, specs, user manual, drivers and downloads. We should absolutely make sure we add this page to our video notes, Mara, so others can find it just as easily. Let's click on the user manual. Let's start there. And it downloads a zip file, which I'm going to open now, extract, and oh boy, we have a bunch of HTML pages in the folder. Okay, so what I'm looking at, if I change my window capture to, let's go to display capture. This just might be easier to do it this way. So bear with me for a second because you're going to get the OBS video loop here. Let's minimize that now, and you can see what I'm seeing here. Inside of the zip file we just downloaded are multiple PDF files. I was thinking they were HTML files because of the Chrome logo, but that's because it opens PDFs. So you see we've got Dutch, Netherlands, Polish, Spanish, Italian, French, English. That's the one I want. So I don't really want any of these. It's not like I'm going to suddenly need them. I just delete everything. Whoopsie. Is there an undo? Let's undo that. I didn't want everything gone. I just wanted everything but English. So let's go back up, delete, and we'll get these deleted because I'm not speaking any of those languages. This is all I wanted. Only a 2.5 meg file. Let's open that up. And conditions used in this manual, included items, status LEDs, all the ports are identified. By the way, you can download this manual yourself if you want to research this a little bit more. There's a hole for a reset button, and there is a Kensington lock I failed to mention. And there is an Oculink port on here. So I failed to mention that. And one of those USB ports, the dark one, is in fact USB 2, as I assumed. Magnetic cover, hard drive trays. It's just kind of pointing out what everything is. The screws here to open it and remove the mini PC. This is that adapter card I showed you, which I'm not going to use, but it's nice to know that if you want to add the U.2 drives, again, that's a more enterprise, far higher level than I would ever use. They're just too expensive for me, and I don't need that added speed. Quite frankly, the hard drives are going to be fast enough for me. There's also a buzzer, so this thing should beep and buzz at you if there's any problems. It gets into a bit about the adding solid-state drives, including standard 2280s as well as the 22110s. So they're 22 millimeters wide. These would be 110 millimeters in length, which we've never seen here on the channel. I don't think I've ever seen one. The most common is 2280. So again, that's 22 millimeters wide, and the 80, it represents the length of 80 millimeters. So if you ever see 2242, 2280, 22110, that's what that means. There's more about the adapter card here for the U.2, so they covered that really well. They talk about the RAM upgrade and expansion. There is the PCIe slot inside that can be used for adding more networking or storage options, it says. We also have some directions on how to properly install or remove the expansion card, which, you want to be careful with it. It's a proprietary piece of hardware. You're not just going to find one of those anywhere. So it's important you don't break it. You're going to be in a world of hurt. You'll have to reach out to Minisforum for a replacement. So treat it with respect. There's your drive installation. Now these drive trays will take a 2.5-inch drive. They just won't snap in. You'll have to put screws, since they only take up about 2/3 of the capacity of the tray. There's no way to secure them from both sides. It can't reach. So that way you secure it with included screws underneath. All 2.5-inch drives have screws underneath, or screw holes, for this reason. And you'll see if we put a 2.5-inch drive in, it looks like this. It looks like it doesn't fit, but that's how every drive tray works. So a little bit about the removal of that board, some of the hookups. Okay, so this is really just about getting it set up, what we've already covered. What I'm interested in is, now that we've done all this, how do we access it? So we have literally done everything in these instructions. No need to insert a monitor, as the NAS can run independently. Yes, that's true of all NASs. So Let me jump back over to my OBS here real quick. Turn off that display capture. And turn off my window capture. So now the question is, once we're set up, is there another documentation? Let's go back to window capture again off the main Minisforum support page under drivers, driver package, Mini Cloud OS. Oh, and then there's an app for Android, Minis Cloud Windows. I don't know what the driver package is for, since it's not directly plugged into the computer, it's plugged into the network. There's a tutorial video, that's useful. This looks like an installation guide, which I think what we've done technically is the installation. Now what I want to do is locate the NAS on the network. So what will I use for that? Minis Cloud Windows and driver package. Just don't understand why there'd be a. Well, let's click on this Minis Cloud for Windows, and we'll download that. Now, I'm going to have to grab a display capture again, so bear with me as we go into the video feedback loop here for a second. Here we go. So what I'm seeing on my screen is Windows protected your PC, more info. I know I can trust Minisforum, so I'm going to run this anyway. So it looks like they need to get some certification or something for this. Select install mode. Minis Cloud can be installed for all users. So I don't necessarily want the cloud functions of this, but let's just check it out. User account control, yes. Language is English. Accept the license agreement. Hit next, 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 and install. That's pretty straightforward. Installation successful. Enjoy your new home private cloud and experience to the fullest. Great. Launch Minis Cloud. Good. What does this do? Currently wired in network. An app upgrade has been found. Great. Let's update it right now. We still get some other language here, which again, I think as a new product, you kind of expect this sort of lack of polishing as they're trying to get the product rushed out. Now, why they're having us install it a second time, it would have been nice if we just got the latest version during the installation process right here, that it would check before it installs instead of after it installs. So that'll be a recommendation, because see, it's got to close the application that we just installed in order to reinstall it again. So one of the very first steps of the installer should be to check if there's a new version, so you don't have to do this. Minor little suggestion for improvement. Not a big deal, it doesn't take very long. Device connection. After connecting the device to power, press the power button. We did that. Insert a network cable. We did that. Connect your phone. I ain't doing that. All right, that's fine. So migrate old Minis Cloud data. Okay, great. Say new, I guess. Finding the Minis Cloud in the LAN. That's what I'm looking for, is the IP address. Taking a long time. I'm surprised I'm not getting a firewall alert asking me for permission. Maybe that's why it's taking so long. Maybe that firewall alert did not come up for some reason. From IP. So if I knew the IP, I could type it in. Yeah, I'm surprised the firewall's not asking for permission. That's very strange. And normally, at least with other NASs, it doesn't take this long. It usually comes up pretty quickly. Sometimes what I've learned is when software is installed for the first time and you launch it, sometimes the firewall doesn't trigger for permission until you close the app and reopen it again. And once you allow it, you don't have to allow it again. Remember that for the app from that point forward. So let me try something here. Let me go back to my my OBS. Let's turn that off. Let's go back to camera 1 right here. And let me close this out. Minimize the browser. Close all this. If I see it running in my system tray, no, I think I've closed it. Let me bring that Minis cloud up one more time. And that'll be under Start Menu. Mini, it's probably under M. Minis cloud, yep, there it is. Now when I bring it up, I just want to check and see if it is asking me for firewall. It still isn't, it's still doing the same thing. I may just be really impatient, you don't say. So I'll let that run for a minute because it'll either time out and say, we can't find anything. Or maybe the firewall will finally pop up and ask for permission. There should be a faster way for me to find the IP address on the network. Now, yes, if you're a technical person, you can just log into your router and find it that way. But there should be a discovery app, and I'm surprised there isn't one. Because we haven't given this a name yet, I don't know how to search for it by name. And because I don't know what IP address my router is assigned to it, once I have that, I can grab control. But that initial setup of anything on the network really helps when you have a discovery app. And I'm assuming this Minis Cloud software is partially that. It helps locate it and then from there configure it. But I should also be able to do that right from a browser if I knew the IP address. So how do I find this? Well, first of all, while that's running, let me take a look in the chat room. Some of you may have seen video reviews of this already, and you might be able to tell me how others have found it on their network. I know these days they really want you to use a smartphone app to set up things, routers and other network devices, Internet of Things devices, but you can almost always go old school by simply logging into the device locally. That's my preference. I'm just not sure how to find the IP address. Then it says, is your Ethernet cable good? Oh yeah, I use it multiple times a day. It's fully plugged in. We should be good to go on that. Just checking in the chat here. So right now, of course, until we log into it, we will have to set a password to log in. We'll set up our RAID array and format our drives along with any shares and permissions. But it all starts with identifying where it is by finding its IP address. Once we find the IP address, we can also assign a name to it. So we can, from that point forward, just go to the name. If you don't remember the name, you can print out a label and stick it right on there. Or you can do the way they want you to do it, which is just use an app. I'm just not into that. It's nice to have as an option. And from time to time, I might get into an app for things like routers, and mostly I don't. I'm just more comfortable being on the web browser. Still says it's finding it. It's not, the wheel's just spinning with no progress here. And I think it's being blocked by the firewall. So I'm trying to find another way. Let me ask Copilot if it knows. I mean, it couldn't hurt. I would like this to be more intuitive. How do I find Minisforum N5 Pro on network? See what it says. Check your router's admin page. That's not helpful. Even if I knew the name of the device, I could ping it and get the IP address that way, but we don't know the name. It mentions third-party network scanning utilities, which I don't like to use. It says once you find the IP address, enter it into your browser. Well, I'm just trying to find the IP address. Try accessing it as n5pro.local. Oh, okay, let's try that. N5 Pro. So instead of www.google.com, up here at the top of the address bar, type n5pro.local. Does that do anything for us? No, it says it can't reach the page. Finding Minis Cloud in LAN. I can try moving the network Ethernet cable to the other adapter. I don't think that's going to make any difference. The fans are on. The drives are, and they're ready. They're not initialized, but they're ready to be. And there shouldn't be any drivers I need. That's why I'm confused why Minisforum has a place for drivers. I don't know what those drivers are for, since we're not plugged in directly to the computer. If it were direct attached storage versus network attached, then I would have a better understanding why that's there. Let's see. Try N5 Pro.local one more time. Still nothing. Let's see. Where am I at here? This is. See what else you guys have to say here in the chat. Bill Stott says, what if you don't have a smartphone? Well, there's apps for Windows too, but agreed. You know, what do you do if you don't have a smartphone? You could use a tablet. But there's always the browser interface. They just don't usually promote the use of it. It's for technical people like myself. For your average user, to make it more user-friendly, give them a nice little app and you reduce the number of support calls you get. It's reasonable why they do that. But it wouldn't hurt if they just included a little extra info there. Let's see. Yeah, N5 Pro.local is not bringing anything up. If I go back to their support page, let's go back there together. It still says it's finding the app is still looking for the NAS. It cannot find it. Let's go to back to the window capture here. What are the drivers? Driver package. Minis Cloud iOS. Well, that's for Apple. That's for Android. That's for Windows. So what is the driver package? Don't know. How about frequently asked questions? Apparently 0111 and the answer is 56555. This is not. We are very early in development here, guys. As you can clearly see, I have no idea what the question or the answer relates to. That's bizarre. Let me check this download here. Drivers. These look like drivers for the mini PC that powers the NAS. Like there's AMD chipset drivers, AMD graphics drivers, NPU drivers, Marvell Ethernet and Realtek Ethernet drivers, along with Visual C redistributables. So none of that we should need to do what we're doing right now. How do we find it? And the documentation, it's simply explaining how to put this whole thing together, but not necessarily how to go through your first power on process. And local, what did they say? N5 Pro.local would be like the MDNS name, which I would think out of the box would work, but it's not working for us here. So we're still missing some piece of this. Huh. Okay, well, I can cheat. I really don't want to cheat. I can look at what's attached to my router and identify it there, but there should be an easier way. On the other hand, I don't want to spend the next half hour trying to figure out what that is. I can email Minisforum support and get that information at a later time so we can continue forward with looking at what the operating system looks like and how we configure this. So I guess I'm going to cheat. And using an app on my phone, I'm going to log into the router, which is, this is what happens when you have too many apps on your phone. Okay. Online clients. Let's see what's online right now. I don't see it. I wonder if we have to put the OS on it. What I'm wondering is maybe the reason it's not finding it is it didn't ship with the OS on it. Maybe the production of this finished and they shipped it and then they were finishing the software separately. I wonder. Because when you order this retail, it should have it already on there. But I still think we're in prototype scenarios here, I think. So I'm wondering if maybe that NVMe, the drive included on here, maybe it's empty. Maybe we have to download the operating system like we have to do with most others. Let's find out. Bear with me for just a second as I need to search the... I recall in my email, Minisforum did send me a link for the software, and I thought, well, that's weird. Wouldn't the software already be on it? Let's see. So I see the Android app and I see the Minis Cloud app that we just downloaded. These are the same apps. So that's not thought. The only reason I can think of that it's not getting an IP address is there's no operating system on it. I don't think we need to have Windows on it. Maybe you do. Thought that was optional. After connecting the device to power, press the power button to turn it on. Insert a network cable in the device and connect it to the router. Connect your phone to the same Wi-Fi network as the router. So we've done all this. Scan the QR code to authorize and bind. Please use the mobile app to scan the QR code. The mobile app must be bound to the device and logged in. Shouldn't have to use the mobile app. And I can try a different network cable. I was just using this last night. I have 2 of them here just to be thorough. And what do the lights on the front tell me? It identifies disk 1, disk 2, and disk 3 have blue lights. Disk 4 and 5 are empty, so there's no lights on. The LAN light is blinking, so it's getting network traffic. Status light is blue, and the power light is on. So what am I missing other than, unless it's shipped with no OS on it? And I don't mean Windows, I mean the OS for the unit itself. Unless it runs in Windows. Now the folks over at Minisforum, they have their own YouTube channel. And so when I get stuck like this and I don't know where to turn, I'm going to preferably turn to the manufacturer before I turn to Reddit or other third parties, so that I get accurate information directly from the source versus from somebody who interpreted it, right? Because you can see how good my interpretation's going right now. So if I just jump over to YouTube, and in YouTube search, I'm going to look up the Minisforum N5 Pro. And then when all the results show up, I'm going to look for Minisforum Official. So if I come down over here and we click on our window capture, it says in our search, build your own NAS, build your own AI NAS with Minisforum's N5 Pro, full setup and drive installation guide from the YouTube channel of Minisforum Official. So that does show us, in fact, everything that's included, right? We scroll forward here a little bit. We've already done all this. Oh, they're showing an expansion card going in. They're showing how the fan comes out if you want to install different kinds of drives. I'm interested in, once you've done all this, then what do you do? So they're still putting drives in it. Okay. Then they turn it on. We've done that. Now see, they've got it powered to a monitor right now. N5 Pro product help. Okay, that's where we went to. Now what's he doing? Downloading the app for Windows. That's what we did. We did this too. Okay. Yeah. We did all that. He hits new. Now, where did he get his IP address from? Come on now, that's not fair. Where did that come from? That's the piece we're missing, this piece right here. So here's what I'm going to guess happened. He hit scan, and it showed him. And in order for protecting, I don't know why they're protecting it, the IP address is not routable. This was not necessary to block this out. But it looks like it did find it, gave him the IP. That's what we wanted. That's what we're looking for. But we can't seem to get that far for some reason. I am more confused than ever. So what I'm going to do, let's go back over to camera 1. Couple things we can do. One is simply turn the unit off and back on again. I think that's an easy thing to start with. I'll hold the power button in. Sometimes the power button will start to flash. Other times you have to wait about 10 seconds. And then that just forced power off. So it didn't do a proper shutdown. It cut power. Since there's nothing on here, there's no worry of corruption, but that's kind of a last-ditch effort. Let's just turn it back on. And see if we have any better luck. The fact that these other drive bays are empty have nothing to do with this. You can have one drive in here, 2, 3, 4, 5. I hear the drives configuring. I hear them powering up and initializing. Presumably, we'd be booting off of the, I would have guessed the 64 gig card. Maybe the boot option is backwards on the mini PC. I don't know. Let's try closing this out again. I want to try running the app, the Minis Cloud app here on Windows, and see if it finds it on the network. It says currently in a wired network. That's correct, we are. I hit new. Finding Minis Cloud in LAN. It's just spinning. Out of curiosity, if we go to the HDMI out, I wonder what the mini PC is doing. Let me grab an HDMI cable. Let's look at that together. I wouldn't think the setup on this would be this difficult. But it is what it is. Let's go to HDMI output of this, which should be this button here. We got no signal, nothing. Yeah, there's no video output to this at all. Oh, wait a minute, it's doing something. What is that? Well, like any other brand new mini PC, it's getting us set up with Windows. Let's go. This is really strange. Let's go full screen over here so I can see it the way you guys do. Now, how am I supposed to pick anything? I guess I need to plug a keyboard and mouse into this, don't I? Let's go back over to camera 1 for a second. I am very confused right now. It seems to me that there should be 2 different ways to boot this. One into Windows and the other into the OS here. But maybe this runs within Windows. That would raise a little bit of security concern for me if they do that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm very confused. When I tell you that they think outside of the box and this NAS is not like any other, everything I'm seeing here is a first-time experience. I've never seen another NAS manufacturer do this. Now, we have seen AOStar, and there's another one where they had that little mini PC with the 2 drives that run in Windows. That was pretty obvious what it's doing. This one, I don't know. So I've got my keyboard and mouse plugged in. Let's turn this on. Oh, I already turned them on. Let's go back over here. And let me go full screen on this. Full screen. Okay, now I can see it the way you guys see it. My mouse is working. Continue in English. United States. Yes. Skip. And of course, I've had it plugged into the network, right? So it's going to check for updates, darn it. Well, that's going to be a minute. So while that's running, let me bring back camera 1, and we'll just chat in the chat room and keep an eye on it. So I'll just put myself over here. Let's go down here. Wow, this is really strange. Let's close out this, because they don't show this as part of the setup. That's why I'm confused. It's like everybody's skipping over this. Are they just making an assumption you know to do? Because I clearly didn't know to do that. Morton said a guy on the internet did this. He connected HDMI keyboard and mouse. You don't normally have to do that on a NAS, but this isn't a normal NAS. Dennis says this is a weird setup. So, and he says, is this a workstation and a NAS? That's what it looks like. Yeah, it's like a workstation NAS built into one. Normally, nobody sits at a NAS and uses it as a computer. It normally sits in a closet somewhere like a server. Not that this couldn't do that, but then if you weren't using it that way, what the heck is all this power for? So the idea that you could be using this as your desktop at the same time it can function as a server might get a little noisy and shake your desk a little bit with the functioning of the drives. I thought Minisforum had their own operating system on this. Because if that's the case, you might be better off with, you know, a do-it-yourself solution like TrueNAS or Unraid for a situation like this. I don't know yet. I'm still learning this as we go. My previous knowledge with NASs is not helping me right now. It's actually making it harder because I think I know better. They're like, we're changing all the rules on this, Carey. I love how crazy performance this powerhouse is. And I kept thinking, why would anybody need that much other than like VMs and stuff? Some heavy Docker utils or something. But it's starting to become clearer if that was their goal. Again, that's bizarre. It's very strange. I can't decide if I like it or not yet. I mean, anytime I'm experiencing something different, I think the reaction is, it's different. I don't, you know, it's not what I'm used to. But that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's setting a new standard. So let me come back over to the screen here and see if it's going to make us log in. It looks like, yeah, let me get rid of camera one so I can see. Open source projector. So you can see here it wants us to log in, and yet there's no option not to. That's unfortunate. So we do the old Shift F10. If I get my keyboard up and running, Shift F10, and then click in the box right here and type in OOBE / bypass NRO. Then it reboots, and when it reboots, it should then give us the option to skip past the Microsoft account requirement. It's a shame that that wasn't from the factory that way, but you know, not that big of a deal. Everything that we're evaluating here, part of the purpose of this is to find areas of refinement and clarity that we can suggest to Minisforum to make the user experience out of the box smoother, more intuitive, walk us through it. And one of the benefits of getting a machine early on is to have that input where the company, you know, can evaluate if they agree with that assessment. And by filming this live and my confusion, hopefully they understand what led us to these suggestions. So again, we're going to go through our setup all over, continue in English, United States, US keyboard, no secondary keyboard. This is all a standard Windows 11 install like any other mini PC. Once again, it's going to check for updates because I maintain leaving the cable installed because I keep thinking I'm on a proper NAS. You know, this is different. This is a weird hybrid. So let me, okay, that didn't take too long. Let me get back here. Accept the license agreement as if you have a choice to Windows. Now it wants us to name the device. This is an N5 Pro. I've never seen it ask me to name the device before. That's new. And then for that name to take effect, it's got to reboot and reinitiate with the network and identify itself as the name I just gave it. So that's our Elgato capture card saying, hey, I don't have a signal right now as our computer is restarting. Now, I don't know if the NAS software is part of this Windows software or if it's something we download separately. I really have no idea. Okay, now let's connect us to a network. Oh, and bypass NRO isn't there again. Isn't that interesting? It really, really wants us to connect to a network. So let's see. We'll hit, this is weird, Shift F10, and then click in the box, and then type OOBE / bypass NRO. Did I type it wrong? OOBE / bypass NRO. There we go. Helps when I type it correctly. We're going to restart again, only this time I'm going to unplug the network this time. We'll try a little different. And see if it's going to let us bypass the Microsoft account requirement. There's other workarounds for this. I just want to go through this basic, simple stuff right now before I overthink it. Always try the simple thing first. So now when it comes up, probably going to take us through the setup again. Let's see. Continue in English. United States. US keyboard. Now it says I don't have internet, so I have to have the cable unplugged for that. That's what I've been looking for. Enter my name, we'll just call it NAS. No password. I do all the same things here. This is weird to do this on a NAS. I cannot tell you. I'm sort of in the twilight zone right now. This is so weird. Because at this point, I don't see a NAS. At this point, all I see is a mini PC. A very large, one of the biggest mini PCs I've ever seen, physically. That is just bizarre. Is it bizarre good or is it bizarre bad? I don't know what to think right now. So as that finishes doing what it's doing, let me come back over here to camera 1 and take another look here in the chat. Barry Klein said that's a turn off. Oh, he's talking to Phil Stodd. Ugreen DXP 4800 is my target. So Ugreen without the guest account, it's completely useless to me. But obviously you must use it differently. The Ugreen looked really promising, but to remove the guest account, no other NAS manufacturer has ever done that before. It's unprecedented and unjustifiable. Now, I don't know with their latest software updates if they've addressed it or not, because I sent the unit back to Amazon. I was pretty upset with the amount of control they wanted over the review, which automatically made me skeptical that they were hiding something, and I don't appreciate them doing business like that. That's another reason I'm sort of against Ugreen. I don't appreciate the level of control and manipulation they were trying to enforce on us. So we went against their wishes and we simply bought it. And I was looking for what they were trying to hide. And I found some things I'm not too happy with. And rather than wait to see if they're going to fix them, they acknowledge these problems are there. The main one being the lack of a guest account, which does not exist on any competing model ever in the history of NASs. And said they would add it on their list of things to add in some point in the future, whatever that means. And we returned it because I'm not going to hold on to a $600 NAS hoping one day they enable a feature that I can't use without that feature. Now, perhaps someday I'll show you an example of why this is so important in the way that I deploy NASs. However, I do understand that people use NASs in other ways and have other things that are a priority where Ugreen might fit that. But it didn't help Ugreen. It didn't help me to have understanding for them when they would not allow us to review the unit without conditions. When Minisforum or anybody else sends us product reviews, units for product review, we're not paid. We're not making a commercial. We're just being honest. And if they don't want that honesty, if they're afraid of the honesty, that makes me very skeptical of the company culture as a whole, that they're hiding something. So if I don't seem as forgiving to Ugreen as I am to Minisforum right now, it's because Minisforum is asking us for this information. They're not telling us to hide it from you. They're saying, whatever you find, show it. That's what a real review should be about. And Ugreen was opposed to us doing that. And the only way we could do that was to buy it. And it was expensive. So to have it come up short was like, well, this must be part of the reason they don't want this information out. That makes me not want to do business with that company, even if the product was good. But if the product was good, what would they be worried about controlling the review? You see what I'm getting at? So we're not off to a good start with Ugreen from morals and ethics, from my perspective and from my values. We do have other NAS units like from Arico to test, and there'll be some more coming out, including another Synology. So we'll just have to see how this all plays out. In the meantime, I can't really decide here if this is good or bad in this way of deployment. It's definitely different. And I did, my initial reaction to this was, wow, that's a lot of power for a NAS. Who needs that? But now that I see you can sit there and use it as your desktop, it kind of makes more sense. But if that means the Minisforum doesn't have their own software, I don't think I want my NAS running on Windows. It's something that requires constant updating and is highly targetable by virus writers. So I would prefer a proprietary operating system, which might still be a part of this. They did say there were 2 different drives. So maybe I'm not booting to the right drive. I mean, I don't know. I'm very confused because, again, we have something so different here. I don't have anything to compare it to. Am I comparing this to a mini PC or am I comparing this to a NAS? You're doing both. Well, then how do you switch between the two? How does that work? So I guess one way we can check is just see if these drives are seen in the device manager or the disk management. Because in theory, well, geez, I don't even want to speculate. I mean, this is so unprecedented. There's lots of different ways this could be interpreted. So let me just see what they've done here. Let me right-click on the Start menu, go to Disk Management, and see, first of all, do we see the drives? We do. There's disks 0, 1, and 2. Okay. Okay, so we can run this as a RAID array within Windows, but then I can do that on any computer. There's nothing special about this. This is very basic and simple. Other than the fact that you can hold more drives, it just looks like a mini PC. So I'm hoping Minisforum has their own operating system and that it's on the other drive. Now you'll see we've got disk. This is all disk 3. That's got to be our NVMe drive. I see disk 2. Scroll up here. So disk 0 is one of the drives we put in, 24 terabyte drives, or 26 terabyte. Disk 1, disk 2, so those will be our mechanical drives. What we booted from is disk 3, that's the 1 terabyte. Is it 1 terabyte? What is this? No, disk 3, that's got to be the eMMC memory. How do we boot to that? So if I click on my computer, let's go to the yellow folder down here. Yeah, what we see here is the 1 terabyte drive. See here, 951 gig. That's Windows. That makes sense to me. I'm hoping the other drive we're not seeing, we simply need to boot to it. Is it that easy? Let's try it. Restart. I'm still not plugged into the network, by the way, just to keep you updated. Let me start pressing delete and see if we can get into the BIOS of this bad boy here and see if there's a secondary boot option. Maybe that's where my confusion is. We go over here to set up boot options. This Debian right here, this is what I want to boot to. So this will be the Windows operating system, and this Debian, this should be the operating system for the NAS. Is it going to let me boot to it? Save configuration and exit. Okay, is that what I needed to do? I think I needed the, let's go here. There we go. Now, in theory, I shouldn't need this plugged in anymore to the HDMI port. Everything should now work accordingly, and I think just default boot for some reason was in Windows if you want to use it as a mini PC. I don't know that you can boot to both of them. Like, you need to pick one or the other. So, look, I'm all about having options, but if I want a NAS, I want a NAS, and if I want a mini PC, I want a mini PC. I don't want to combine the two. So this may be, when I say overkill, like for me, it would be massively overkill. See how the screen stays blank like this? What that's suggesting to me, if I come back here to camera 1, what that's suggesting to me is we are now booting like a normal NAS at this point, where this would not function until we ran an app on the NAS for like video output or something like that. So I'm going to disconnect this. I'm going to plug it back into the network. So it shouldn't matter for us if we're plugging into the 5 or the 10. Then what I want to do is I want to go back to the Minisforum app. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to turn off the, well, let's go full screen on camera 1 first. Here we go. I'll turn off the HDMI on this since it's just confusing me. And then let's go back to let me go back to my full display capture. So I apologize for the feedback there. So here, when I run the software, it just found it. N5 Pro, that's us. It did find it. I closed it and reopened it, and I was going to show you that. I'll do it again. Let's just close. Click New. Scanning is in progress. See how fast that is? That's it. That's exactly what we were looking for. Now it says N5 Pro 8628. There's our IP address, which it wasn't getting before because Windows hadn't finished installing and it wasn't booting off the Debian side. So download the update. I appreciate they're checking for the update first. They don't wait for us to install it like they did on the Windows app and then check for an update so we can download the newest version of the Windows app, close the Windows app that told us we had the update so that we can install the entire program a second time. This is much, much better. So I'm going to go ahead and hit install the update, and that'll be the update on the Minisforum operating system. These updates are critical if you want to have all the latest features, reliability, and performance enhancements, and that's true of all NASs. So now this is looking more familiar to me. Administrator initialization, great. Username, I'll put username of Carey, and a password, I'll say this is my password. See if I can type that the same twice. This is my password. Okay. Please provide at least one piece of secure information, otherwise you'll not be able to recover. I'm fine with that. Don't need it. Register. Count must be at least 6 letters. I've never seen that before. Oh man, you're going to change my routine. Oh boy, oh boy. Let's just call it minis. I'm never going to remember this, by the way. I'll be resetting this later. I should be able to skip that, I think. Registration successful. Login. Okay, here we go. Username, Minisforum, password, this is my password. System pool, yay! Okay, we got there. Whew, I knew this was different, but boy was I not prepared for just how different it is. System pool has not been created. Wonderful. Simple mode or advanced mode? Let's try simple mode and see what it does. Mode selection does not affect system functionality, only determines the complexity of initialization. Let's keep it simple. So it's showing the three 26 terabyte drives that have checks automatically. And then the Kingston, that's our Windows installer or our Windows install on the 1 terabyte NVMe in the mini PC, which we want to leave that alone. And it's smart enough to identify that you don't want to get rid of that. So this is correct. Now, do you want RAID 0? No, I want, oh, there's something called RAID Z1. If one disk fails, no data will be lost. So that seems like a RAID 5. Oh yeah, it says RAID 5. Then there are some unsupported modes, like RAID 6 would need at least 4 drives, obviously if you're going to have 2 spares. An extended RAID 6, which will mean up to 3 disks can fail instead of 2. So I just want a regular RAID Z, which, by the way, the checkbox is put there automatically for us. It is recommended to select at least 1 redundant disk. Yep, perfect. And it says you can create other modes such as RAID 10, 50, or 60, which I won't get into those today, but that usually is when you're having, 10 plus drives. So storage pool encryption, I don't think I need storage pool encryption. Data compression. I mean, you know what? If it's going to default, let's just leave it on the defaults. I don't normally do this, but with this much power, you see, here's the reason I don't normally choose this on other manufacturers, because the processors are pretty weak, comparatively speaking. This processor is so overkill, we probably won't even notice any difference with encryption on or off. So I see why I got to get out of my box here and see this is very different. You've selected SDC, SDB, and SDA. Those are the drive 1, 2, and 3. And 3 other hard disks to build the storage pool with the array storage mode RS31. The equivalent capacity of 1 hard disk will be used for redundancy to improve storage pool reliability. So RAID 5 is what it's saying. In case of simultaneous failure of any one disk, no data will be lost. Simultaneous usually means at the same time. How can one do anything at the same time as the other? So I think we got some bad English here. After creating the storage pool, the data in the aforementioned hard disk will be formatted. Therefore, you will be responsible for any data loss caused. Please confirm whether there are important files. Click confirm to proceed with creation, indicating that you understand we're wiping these hard drives out. Yes, the drives that we selected the checkboxes are in fact the drives we want to erase because they're brand new and there's nothing on them. But they take this very seriously. This is my password, is the password we need to use to confirm we absolutely understand and we cannot cry foul when we realize we just erased everything and we weren't made aware that we were about to. Now this has nothing to do with the NVMe drive because that was not selected earlier. This is just on the 3 brand new drives we just installed. It doesn't know that those drives don't have data on them. So this is a boilerplate, cover your butt sort of statement, disclaimer. Every NAS manufacturer does this. That one's a bit wordier than most, but it's saying the same thing, which is you realize you're going to erase everything. So it says it's creating the storage pool. This will take a few minutes. And that was quick. All right. All right, this looks familiar. Look at this, kind of has an Apple look to it here. Docker, movies, device monitor. Look at all the cores. Have you ever seen a NAS with that many cores? Are you kidding me right now? Holy cow. All right, and yeah, this looks just like a Mac. All right, we're gonna close that. Let's see. Upload and download on the network. Okay, what if I want to create a share? We can look at our storage. That's our storage pool, the 3 drives together as one. And then if we come up here, we can see the health and information that all the 3 drives that we unboxed, they're fine, they're in good condition. There's our NVMe drive right there. That's our Windows for the mini PC. Then you can add external storage. This is really weird. What do you think of this?
As a certified geek, I love this.
You like it?
This makes me so happy.
It's quiet. Like, I'm surprised how quiet it is.
Love it.
Let me see if I go to...
so fun. Woo.
Where do I create my share? Is it under File Manager? External storage? No. Quick access? No. This looks just like File Explorer in Windows. I don't know any of this. Backup, desktop, documents, downloads, movies, music, photos. I want to create a share. Here's an internet share. So if I want to create a cloud, I don't turn internet sharing on my NASs, but it's clearly designed for that. Backup app, task manager, or, you can set up scheduled tasks. LAN share, that's what I want. SMB, that's what I want. Main account. SMB, this is what we use on a Windows network. Enabling this will allow this account to access personal space. Stay away from my personal space. Protocol, we want an SMB3. Multi-channel means you can use both network cards if you choose. Why not? Let's turn it on. Even if you don't use them, turn it on, it won't hurt anything. Main account not initialized. Account password. Main account disabled. Allow other smart devices to access your private cloud as if they were local folders like smartphones, tablets, TVs, virtual reality. Computers all natively support it. Okay, this is weird. So configure the account. Username is Minisforum. This is my password. I think this wants a completely different account. Like, this doesn't look like the account to log in to the NAS, but rather the password over the network. So that's pretty strange, but let's see if we can just keep it the same so I don't... Only letters and numbers are allowed. Okay, so let's do this. Let's call it, how about guest and guest? It's probably going to tell me it's too short. Yeah. Oh, man. Let's try, username will be guest123 and the password guest123. So again, if you're going to share this over the internet, you would want a much more secure password and login, but let's create that. Okay, so now the main count is enabled. I am thrown by whatever, the one-click mount. I don't know what this, I mean, this is clearly software that's still in development here because it's kind of mostly English and whatever Mandarin or Cantonese. Personal. Enabling this will allow this account to access personal space. Not sure on that. Now, of course, you've got FTP, NFS, DLNA, like for media sharing and web development. Okay, so I don't want any of that. How can I determine which folders I want to share? Like, that should be, see, I don't want internet share. It's probably not file manager. Is it settings? Minisforum's account, password, one logged in device, Red Streamer. That's the machine I'm broadcasting to you from. And let's see, under admin, share. Oh, look at this. Internet address. Not quite sure how I feel about that. Use the Minis Cloud app to scan and import this device. Interesting. We can choose wallpaper for our operating system here. Power schedule, disk information.
storage pool. So this says we have a total of 47.12 terabytes of space, but I don't know how we share that space. Is it, so this is the storage pool, but I'm trying to figure out how to create a volume within this pool. That's what I'm looking for, volume creation. So creating another storage pool is not really what I want to do. Let's see, let's keep going. Storage pool, network information. This will tell us what we're on here. Global DNS, language, operating system language. That we need to set to English. That would probably help. And I guess it's got a reboot for that to take effect. Interesting that that was defaulted not to English. Good to know. One more thing for us to check. Region. Region says mainland China. Changing the service zone may affect the accessibility of the NAS. Interesting. Say Western United States, hit select. Wonder what that does. Never seen that option before in any other NAS. Time server should be fine. Yeah, it changed it. It says it's rebooting, but it didn't like appear that it rebooted. So whatever it's doing, it's a weird definition of reboot. Yeah, I'm confused by the. I would think it's under the file manager that I would create a share system pool. So apparently the system pool has all of these directories already created for us. Interesting. So does that mean if I browse the network, if I click down here, I browse network, do I see? I don't see it here. Give it a minute to keep looking. So if these folders are created as volumes within our storage pool, I'm not a fan of this, but that should be easy enough to right click and delete if you don't want it. Okay, so then the next question is, what if I want to share this folder? What do I do? So if I want to share downloads, right click, properties, stat, hidden files, recurse, no, last access, file path. Does that work? Be that and put it down here. Does that bring us there? No. Something's still not right. This is well out of my wheelhouse. Share. No, so I'm getting back to these same menus again. So what I'm looking for is I should be able to assign users, including a guest account. That's usually under the network settings on most NASs. Settings, network. And I don't know what this global DNS is about. That's weird. Firewall is enabled. Network message, great. Link aggregation, we're fine with that. But where's my, remember we were back at SMB somewhere. Where was that at? HCP, global DNS file. I'm kind of stuck. I'm not quite sure where this, like I would think it'd be here under network. Maybe under system. Host name, host name. Well, I've got a lot to learn. SMB. Enable. Don't see where we're turning WS lookup on, so this can be seen on a browser in Windows. Where is that option at? I'm going to turn multi-channel off just to avoid any confusion. What is the plus sign for? Create a shared directory. Create an SMB sub-account. It's got to be at least 6 characters. So what if I want a guest account? Where's that? Okay, well, I might as well be using TrueNAS or Unraid for the amount of education that I have to go through to get this configured. It's definitely not for beginners. I mean, this is so different, and it's very difficult for me to even know where these settings are or if they even exist yet because we're so early in development here. I'm just not quite sure. So let me go back to OBS. Hold on a second, guys. You're going to get that feedback here. And let's see what you guys are saying in the chat room because let me minimize this because I can't see the chat room when I'm in there. Okay, so we're just over 2 hours here. And I kind of had a feeling getting out of the gate was going to be tough, but I thought once we're through the gate, it should be just familiarizing myself with different labeling, but essentially finding the same thing. So again, I'm finding no guest account. Does one exist? Or are we back in that same situation? With no guest account, as a NAS, this is useless to me. As a mini PC, it's a damn powerful mini PC. But I didn't plan on evaluating a mini PC. This mini PC is very similar to the AI X1 Pro that we reviewed. And when you consider how much that sells for, and that's included in the cost of the NAS, suddenly the NAS doesn't seem so expensive at all. With this being Minisforum's first foray into a NAS, and given, you know, they want to start getting this out as quickly as possible, it's still a little early. And I realized that. I knew when I was getting into it that this is likely going to be not a completed product yet, but hopefully on the right path. So, you know, this is the reality of it. It's sort of like you're taking something out of the oven that isn't quite done baking and you're going to evaluate the flavor and texture when it's not done yet. I really feel like this is almost like a cake without frosting. It's kind of done. It needs a little more time in the oven. And I need to spend a little bit more time where I can research this and figure out, is it just not there? I could spend the next 2 hours looking for a guest account that doesn't exist. So I don't want to do that. I want to verify, is there a guest account enabled on this? If not, it falls into the same category as Ugreen.
with the exception being we didn't pay for this. So I don't mind holding on to it, waiting for that feature to be added if it's not already there. It's also possible it is there and I'm just not finding it because everything is so different. I am completely lost. And you know, this is why I was looking forward to this. I told you right out of the gate this was going to be different. They have absolutely succeeded. Check that box off. It's different. It's very quiet. And for a first time, you know, generation 1 NAS operating system, they're out of the gates really, really good, but they still have quite a ways to go. I'd say they're about 75 to 80% there. You know, there's still some areas that I think the default should be changed, right? Things like the region should be defaulted to English if you're shipping to America, or it should be defaulted to America. It's weird it wants East Coast versus West Coast. That's probably for connecting to servers for network access, which I don't use these for. So I'm just not sure how I feel about this. I'm confused. I see where it's going. I see what they're looking to do. I feel like having this boot to Windows is pointless, but that's just me. You know, maybe you would want some loud clanky thing on your desk as you use this as your mini PC, because it's a very fast mini PC. But if you compare the amount of power this mini PC has to any other NAS on the market, nothing comes close. Nothing comes close to this. It's a ridiculous, amazing amount of power. So it'd almost be a shame to not use it as a mini PC, because it'll probably smoke any computer you're using right now to watch this video. This mini PC probably outpaces that by far. The AI X1 Pro is one of my favorite mini PCs. It's an incredible little machine that's quiet and it's fast. And that's why I've got them, I don't know if you can see them, but I've got them close at hand. So if I need a mini PC to grab for an example, those are the ones I choose. Remember, I can choose all different models and makes. Those are my favorites. So when the manufacturer of my favorites comes out with a NAS, you can understand why I'm so excited about it. But I also know, with reservations, we're early in on this development. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it progresses. At this point right now, I think what I need to do is just evaluate, let me disconnect it, just evaluate research, such as the guest account and folder shares. I don't like those default folder shares. I don't like it when ASUS Store does it. I don't like it when Minisforum does it. I want to create my own shares, just like I create my own storage volume or storage pool. When the initial setup comes up, and again, this is how I'm accustomed to doing this with Synology and QNAP and TerraMaster. When you finish creating your storage pool, the next thing it should automatically walk you through is creating your storage volume or volumes. I usually create one volume, the full size of the pool. I call it public and I open the guest account. I'm done. I now have a usable shared folder everywhere in the building from all connected computers, including if I want phones and tablets. I don't run any apps. I don't run backup apps. I don't run Docker apps. So this is way overkill for just a file server. It's way over the top. But when it is over the top, that may encourage me to say, well, maybe I'll start playing with Docker. Maybe I'll start playing with virtual machine. I don't want to, because it would run slow on every other NAS, and I really didn't buy the NAS to do that. I bought the NAS as a central repository for all data in a building that's on a secured LAN that is not opened up to the outside. So nobody can ever hack into it. It's not possible. The only way you could break into it would be you'd have to break into one of the computers that's connected to it in the building, and then from there, then you'd connect into the NAS. That's a kind of an old school, very basic security, but it also is something that really doesn't have to be updated. Like, that's locked in. So if you're in the building and you could plug into the network, I mean, you could also just grab the NAS and walk out with it. So that kind of level of security is a bit ridiculous. It's absurd. But when we talk about strangers hacking in from other countries, you know, through the network cable, I don't want any open access to this. I understand I represent a minority when it comes to thinking like this. A lot of people purposely buy these so they create their own cloud. So you don't have to use something like Dropbox or Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. There's no monthly subscription. You just pay for the NAS, configure your cloud space. You see the QR code, you share that with friends, you give them permissions. That's probably the vast majority of the way people are using this. That's not the way I use it, and it's not the way my business clients need it. So please understand that when I'm telling you about my use case scenario, I don't expect it to be completely understood by people, that they grasp the reasoning here. As a personal device you've got in your home to play your movies and your TV shows, to set up a Plex server so when you travel, you can watch your TV shows and listen to your music while you're traveling through your smartphone. Nobody pays me to set up stuff like that. And the copyright issues alone, I would not want to associate my business with that kind of assistance and that promoting that activity. There's just not enough money in the world for it to risk my business. But you as a home user, you probably don't have much in the way of assets compared to a large company. And so you probably don't care, because if you don't have anything to take, what can they take from you? They're also not profiting from it. If it's for your personal use, they're likely not coming after you, right? But any business that associates with that behavior, that's got deeper pockets, then the copyright owners go after that entity. So for that reason, in my line of work, what we're talking about is business case scenario. But these don't have to be used for business. They can be used as toys and entertainment devices, and it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. You can have a small business at home while using the same device you run your business to also entertain you with movies and music as you travel, and you want to open that up. But by opening that up, you're opening a door for others to get in. So if you never put the door there to begin with, there is no door. That's a lot more secure. On the other hand, if you follow all the security advice and you keep it updated, it should be relatively secure regardless. But again, when a whole business and people's careers are at stake versus just a home user playing, there's a very different attitude to prioritizing security versus, it'll probably be okay. We can't go with it'll probably be okay in the professional business world unless everybody's okay with losing their careers and having to go find other jobs. And if they don't find another job fast enough, lose their house and live out on the streets. I don't know how much more serious life gets. That's pretty damn serious outside of a medical condition where life is at stake. This is second to that. So my attitude comes from that perspective. Most of you watching this don't have businesses, have never had businesses, or you've retired. So it's just you and your own personal needs, not the needs of anybody else that's paying you. As a result, there's less risk for you. And I want you to understand that when you watch other reviews, they might focus in more on the home enthusiast, whereas I focus in more on business. That being said, I'm still looking for that perfect business NAS, which I still haven't found. And I don't know enough about this yet to tell you if I like it or I don't. Mara's really excited about playing with it, but I would not deploy this based on what I know about it right now in a business environment. Not yet. Now, between me familiarizing myself with its unique configuration options, along with waiting for some updates as they polish this first generation NAS operating system, this holds a lot of promise. Far and above any other NAS I've ever seen, this one is the most promising. So I think that's pretty much where I want to conclude this today, but you can absolutely expect follow-ups because this is just a baby. As it grows up, it's going to become unrecognizable. If I showed you my baby photo, I guarantee you, the only reason you're going to know that's me is because I tell you it's me, because I just look like a baby, like every baby. And in much the same way, when this evolves, it will probably change quite a bit. So we're going to hold on to it, obviously, because we didn't pay for it. We'll hold it, and we'll see through one of two ways. One, Mara might want to play with it. So she's free to play with it, and when she figures out something, she can tell me. Two, as we wait for updates to come to the operating system, we'll see how that evolves with ease of use and more walk-through wizards to set it up where we're not so confused. Pretty interesting though, and definitely the what this is able to do once it's configured right. It's just there's no competition for this in the NAS space. Nothing is even close to this. But early peak, you know. I'm a little sad because I was really hoping they were further along in development than this, but it's okay. I'm glad they sent it to me. I'm glad I got to experience it. I've learned a lot with the different approach they've taken here. I get it. I see where they're going. They're not there yet. But man, I'm super excited about where this could be. And he says maybe use a less powerful Mini and you have a $500 NAS. Yes, well, they do offer that, right? We did show, if we go back to the Minisforum page, and then maybe you weren't here in the beginning of the video or you were distracted, but we absolutely covered this. If we go back to the page again and repeat back what we already did, you can see that on the Minisforum website, they have this version and they have this version right here. Now this version's only 729 and it's still pretty powerful, right? This is a Ryzen 7 255, which is again, nothing to shake a stick at, and it's all enclosed in the same box. So it's just the mini PC part of it here. So yeah, they're already ahead of you on that one. And who knows, they could expand that line up to be even more budget or even higher end, such as the Strix 395 or something. Time will tell, but just being able to swap that PC out makes it very modular and upgradable in a way that no other NAS on the market can do that. Not that I'm aware of. All right, let me go back to the chat room. John Williams says, thanks for a great live stream. Right on. Thank you, John. Fox Voyager says, I think I saw group space management under settings. Yeah, we'll play with it off camera, right? Because this could go on another 2 or 3 hours as I'm just kind of poking around. But I've established what is intuitive with regards to get it out of the box, get it set up, get your login configured, get your storage pool configured. My hang up now is on the local area network share. I don't want to share anything on the network, over the internet. I just want it on a locally secured LAN, just like I do every other NAS. It may be in there and I'm just not seeing it yet. So Mara will be playing with this. I'll have her, she looks so excited about it. Like I couldn't stop her if I wanted to. I have other projects I need to get to. I've got customers that need some help, and I've got other reviews that we need to set up for later this week and next week, including Orico's Metabox NAS, the H5300 Pro. And again, it's a first generation product. It may not be quite done. I don't know yet. We'll see how it compares. I can tell you it's nowhere near as powerful as this. No other NAS we're looking at and the schedule comes anywhere close to the power of this. For whatever that's worth, right? For me, it's overkill, but you know, Mara may use it in a whole different way, or you know, some people, they like to explore. They just go, hey, this looks like fun. For me, I'm just trying to get something done and move on. I need things to be intuitive, unless I'm trying to do something complicated. But I think just setting up a NAS, plugging in your drives, creating your storage pool in a public share with guest access is about as simple of a configuration that you can possibly use a NAS for. So for that to be complicated, right now at this point is simply because I'm not familiar with the menuing setup. So I don't know if the option is in there and I'm not seeing it, or if they just haven't added it yet. That's why I'm saying off camera we can kind of pursue that information. Then we'll come back and do a follow-up and be able to tell you what we've learned. But this is at least the intuitive out-of-box experience, which, you know, really threw me. The fact that that was booting into Windows instead of defaulting to booting to the eMMC memory is
I don't know why they did that. But again, as a prototype, that may not mean that that's the way they're going to ship when they finally get to shipping. And if they do, it's good to know why, so you don't have to go through what I went through. John Downey said, I believe this is more than a NAS. With a Ryzen AI 9, this appears to be a NAS that's set up to run virtual machines like a Xeon processor. I'm behind you 100%, I agree. And I don't run virtual machines, but it seems like it would do that with ease, especially compared to any other NAS on the market with that much power. I completely agree with you. For simple file sharing, it's way over the top. But having options, as I mentioned, people's needs change. So because this is how I want to file share today, maybe because I don't like the options I've got today, but when I see what options I've got tomorrow with the processing power that can handle it, I might reconsider that and start changing the way I use the NAS. I don't know yet. Andy says this may be an enthusiast NAS. I would say that if it required a very complex setup like TrueNAS or Unraid or Open Media Vault, those are like people recycling old computers. For the most part, that makes up the majority of people that use that, and they'll be enthusiasts. And well, yes, there are businesses that use that. I disagree that that's appropriate, but that's just my opinion as I run my business. Everybody can run their own business any way they want to. You choose to support what you want to support. When I come into a business and I see they have a server, or if they were to have TrueNAS or Unraid or any of these, I would basically set up a contract to say, look, I don't work with this equipment. I'm not going to learn it and support it just for you. So part of our contract will be that we are going to remove that and put in a standard turnkey NAS, more designed for this kind of business use and something we're familiar with that aligns with our experience, so we know what we're doing. And this is common. Like if you do PC support or managed service providing, you're always going to promote and encourage your firewalls, your antivirus, your remote management software, and remove whatever the client has, if necessary, so that you can come in there and do your job. If you've got one client running one thing and another client running something else, and you think you can stay on top of all that, you want to work a lot harder than I do. I want all my clients to kind of follow the same consistent processes, much like any other IT support company would do. If they decide that they really don't want to give up their TrueNAS, then I'm not the right tech for them. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm only telling them what I'm good at. And I'm not going to relearn or adopt to some other standard that they insist on when there's no other client I've got. It's easier for them to adopt to me since I'm the one held accountable, and it's my responsibility. I'm just not willing to adapt to that level. I will replace it with what I'm good at, what I'm familiar with, and what is very cost effective, very reliable, and I can know with confidence that it's not going to kill me in labor costs to do routine things that I don't know how to do with their hardware. So for example, I have a client that has a Ubiquiti router. I cannot get access to it. There doesn't seem to be any way other than the person they originally assigned to contact Ubiquiti to give me access to it. And when they do that, I don't have admin access. I've never seen a router like this. And after months of trying to work with this other person who seems to refuse to give up that admin access, unless I want to reach out to Ubiquiti and try and override this other guy, I just told the client, look, as long as you're going to keep that Ubiquiti router, I will do what I can to help you, but this is unlike any router I've ever seen. This isn't the kind of equipment I work on, and I recommend whoever you had install this and maintain it, maybe just have them take over your whole network, right? There's no reason for me. And they said, no, we like you, we want you to keep doing what you're doing, and we understand the situation. What would you recommend for us to resolve it? I said, it's going to cost you about $20,000 to $30,000 to undo all the Ubiquiti equipment this person put in here, from your cameras to the NVR to the Wi-Fi points. They're just, it's a small business. They set this up like you're a hotel. You know, the networking in this place is massive. It's way over the top for your needs. So, well, the wiring I wouldn't have used, we can leave that in place.
But all of these Ubiquiti stuff needs to go. Or, because I wouldn't do that, I would not recommend that you rip this equipment out. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't know how to configure it, and I'm not going to learn how just for you. This one client is a part-time client. I don't make a living from them. I make a living from a lot of clients added up together. So I can't afford to spend the time to learn this just for one customer. So for that reason, the easy solution, the cheapest solution, is to just go to the guy who installed it. Let them be your new network guy. And said, no, we don't want to do that. Okay. I said, look, nobody talked to me about this. You guys just talked to somebody else, you listened to them, and then you just put the mess in front of me and said, here, take care of the mess. The only way I know how to take care of this mess is to set it back the way I set up every client. You guys just undermined me. So if you're replacing me, undermine me all day. But if you want to keep me and undermine me, I mean, I like the guy. I don't want to leave him, but I also don't want to rip him off. I have no idea what I'm doing with that equipment, and I'm kind of locked out of some of it because I'm not getting cooperation from the other guy. What a mess. So it's not that I'm anti-Ubiquiti or anything. It's just not what I do. And I have no interest in adopting that as a business because I don't need to. I already have knowledge and experience that Ubiquiti isn't solving. They're not, that whole networking equipment he's got could have been done for a fraction of the price. He didn't need all of that. So there's no reason for me to learn it because I don't have any clients of that size that would require equipment of that level. Somebody put big corporate enterprise level equipment into a little teeny tiny 7-employee business. And this guy probably was taken to the cleaners financially for the cost of the equipment, the installation and configuration. And I will bet you for all the years I've worked for this guy, if you added every penny he's ever paid me, it probably doesn't match what this person charged him to do all this, including Ubiquiti security cameras, Ubiquiti Wi-Fi points, all the installation, all the cabling, the NVR, the Dream Machine, all of that. And when he did that, he took out the network I had, which lost every IP address to every printer. They couldn't print anymore. Things weren't working. The phones weren't working. And the guy never reached out to me. All I was told is he was adding Wi-Fi. Well, let him add Wi-Fi. I wasn't told he was going to completely rip my network out and throw it in the trash and then lock it in with passwords and keep me out of it and then not even be able to give me access, not admin access. There can only be one, and that has to be done through Ubiquiti server's permission. You can't just do that individually on the router. This is enterprise grade stuff. That's not what I do. So just because the client wants me to do it, it's not like I'm willing. I'm not interested. You could tell me, well, it's this better this, it's better that. Well, then you do it. That's all. I'm not telling you not to. So what we ended up doing is we came to a compromise. And I said, look, everything this guy didn't touch, like the computers, the network switches, the NAS, the antivirus, all the managed services, I'll take care of. But when it comes to that router, and it comes to your cameras and your security system, and for that matter, your phone system, you're going to have to call other people. So right now, this company calls one company for their Xerox machine, that's a printer and a fax. I have no idea how that's configured. They've got 3 of them, no 2 are the same, and sometimes they replace them. They come off lease, they get a new one. What, you think I'm going to just keep learning? I don't sell them. I'm not profiting from. I have no idea. They need maintenance. They need toner. They need. I'm like, you need to go to a company for that. Probably the company you leased it from should be the company you call when you're having problems with these big photocopiers. No problem. Okay, good. Phones. Who did your phones? This guy. Okay, if you have any problems with your phones, you got to call that guy because I have no idea how he's got it configured. I don't know what these boxes do. I don't do that. Now, I could have contracted that out if you needed that, and then I'd be working with somebody, but I don't do it. Okay, so if your phones go out, you call your phone guy. If your photocopiers go out, you call your photocopier guy. So then you go, okay, well now everything else is under my roof, except you just put all this new networking equipment in that's at a level of which I'm not familiar, and I'm just simply not going to endure the time and effort because you guys did this without checking on me, checking with me, and getting my input. But yet somehow that's okay to not listen to me, but then to tell me you want me to maintain it doesn't work. So the guy who sold this to you, the guy who installed it, you call him. And you may not know when to call him. I'll tell you. If you're having a networking problem, if something within the computer system is down, if it's something I can fix, I'm happy to fix it. I'm even happy to try with the Ubiquiti equipment. But beyond that, I will be advising you at certain points that this goes beyond what I'm, there's a barrier you guys put in, whether you realize it or not, that I can't cross. So now you've got 4 different people, one for the printer, one for the phones, one for the Ubiquiti and security system, and one for basically the network attached storage, the network itself, the PCs and PC security, and any sort of remote access requests or anything that they need regarding the computers. Then on top of that, they have a piece of software custom written. Sometimes they call me about that software. I go, look, anything involving the software, it's a custom piece of software written by one guy. One guy. This is what he does. You need to call that guy anytime you have problems with the software. And if he thinks it's a problem with the network, he needs to call me and we'll talk together. But now you've got 5 different support people: phones, photocopier, network, the other half of the network in the NAS, and your custom database software. So this company has a list of 5 people where it could be 1 if you pick the right guy. And I did suggest maybe I'm not the right guy for this. No. They wouldn't hear it. We're keeping you. We don't want you going anywhere. Okay, I just want you to not be upset with me when I tell you you're sort of boxing me in here and what I can do to help you. We're good with it. Okay, as long as we're all on the same page, I'm good with it too. Andy says, I think Mr. Holzman did a bit of beta testing today. I'd say it's a bit beta testing. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, for sure. John Downey said, this is a machine you could run AutoCAD CD 3D on Nevis. Yeah, see, I know that stuff. I don't use it, so I would not be good in supporting it. So I'll just nod my head. Sure. Sounds good. Dennis says, sounds like there's too many chefs in the kitchen. Well, look, if you got a sous chef, you got a prep chef, you got, your lead chef. If everybody's at their stations doing their job, there's no reason why you can't have multiple people working together. But when nobody's talking to the other person, that's where you have the issues, right? I don't normally talk to the phone guy. I don't normally talk to this Ubiquiti router guy. Never even so much as introduced himself to me or asked me for any clarification or permission to do what he did. I just was left cleaning up the mess he left. When the phone's voicemail stopped working, I was left with the mess. When the photocopiers went down, I was left with the mess. I didn't do any of this, and if they would have left it alone, they wouldn't have had any of these problems. So what I'm saying is the person you paid who created the mess should be the first person you call to clean that mess. And if for some reason that doesn't go through, then call me. But they're so used to calling me, I'm like, you can't do that anymore because of the decisions you made without my input. You have limited what I can do to help you now. So maybe, since I can't help you like I used to, we should just go different directions. I am looking out for my customer first. I'm not looking out for my business. I want to make sure my customer is going to be happy. And if I don't think I can make them happy, I tell them, I don't think you're going to be happy. And they go, why not? Well, because I can't do this anymore, and I can't do this anymore because you guys made decisions that you didn't include me on, and now you just think I can just pick up anything and walk with it? I can't. It's not financially or time-wise feasible for me to pick this all up unless I have a bunch of clients that all have the same need. I'm not starting over again. So they're like, oh, we understand. So you'll still do this and you'll still do that. Yeah, of course. Well, we're good with that. Okay. If you're happy, I'm happy. But I want to get that out in the open. I don't want this to be a surprise later. So you can't say that I didn't meet expectations or I didn't do what I said I was going to do. No, you're fine. We're good. We know now. You might need to remind us from time. I said, oh, I'll remind you. If there's something I can't do, I'll say this is one of those things. You got to call the other guy. Yeah, we have no problem with that. Okay. Very strange. Bill Stott said, communication is paramount no matter the industry.
Yeah, and communication's paramount no matter the relationship, right? Barry Klein's mentioning he's having some trouble with his payment method. Okay, so we're just here almost at the 3-hour mark. If anybody has any final questions, comments, suggestions, this is the time, because otherwise we're going to wrap it up for this Friday. We got the weekend ahead of us. And not quite sure. I think on Sunday we'll pick up. Oh, I've got an email. Okay. I think on Sunday we're going to pick up on the Mini ITX build. I'm really frustrated with Thermaltake. When I reached out to their RMA that they did not enclose a compatible cable for this $90 screen we bought, for this $150 case we bought, that they said work together, they don't work together. They lied. So when I opened up the box and found the cable would not work, found out Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How-To YouTube channel had the same problem, I was then made aware that they've repackaged the monitor, this little $90 screen that's optional, with a new cable. So if you got one of the older packaged ones, you didn't get the new cable. When I reached out to support, they alerted me to this and said you need to reach out to the RMA department. Now think about all the time going back and forth. I opened a support ticket, they respond, I ask a question, they respond. They say you need to reach out to RMA, we can't help you. That's the RMA, we don't do that. But you mention it, they know exactly what the problem is, they'll help you. So I say thank you, I open another ticket, go to the RMA department. The RMA department has the gall to tell me that I might have bought a used product and I have to prove I bought a new product. And there's no way to do that if I bought the product on Amazon except to download and install the Amazon app on my phone, look under my order history where it will show the condition, because the normal Amazon order history on the browser doesn't show the condition as being new or used. But you know this is a problem. And you know I have 30 days to return it to Amazon even if it were used. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing you a favor giving you the opportunity to very inexpensively send me the cable. I'm not asking for a new screen. I need the cable that should have been in the box that you told me was compatible with the case before I paid $250 for the case and screen together that don't fit together that you claim would. Then on top of that, I spent another $150 or $180 on a cooler that doesn't fit in the case that you claim would. So you guys are a bunch of liars. And none of this fits together well. It's bad design. And I spent a lot of money for it. And now I have to prove to you before you'll send me the cable that should have been in the box that you know what the incompatibility is. I'm not bringing this to your attention. You're well aware of it. Now you're going to make me go through this whole hassle of installing the Amazon app, looking through my purchase history, trying to figure out how do I print this now? Because the Amazon app would not print. It just doesn't print. So luckily, Mara is really good with photo editing. And I said, well, let's just grab, because this is like 3 screens long, this receipt. The case is on it, the screen is on it, the condition of the case is new, the screen is new, the total, the shipping address, the order number. This goes on for 3 screens, and I can't print it. Every time I try to print it, the whole app locks up. I said, okay, I'm just going to wipe my hand across the screen and do a screenshot, scroll up, another screenshot, scroll up, another screenshot, send those 3 screens over to Mara so she can stitch them back as one screen, then print that as a PDF file so I can send it back to the RMA department. Then the RMA department says, okay, your cable's in the mail, please box up and send back the other one. And then there's another email that comes in. It says, here's your tracking information. Then there's another email that comes in that says, please disregard the first email. There's nothing you need to send back. I paid for this nonsense. So if you never see another Thermaltake product on this channel again, I am so upset with the way they've handled this, of a problem they knew existed, and now I have to prove to them I didn't buy a used product. even though from the date of purchase, they know if it's from Amazon, within 30 days, I have 30 days to return it, which would cost them a lot more money. Okay, calm down. So even though I don't have the cable yet, it's on its way, finally, after waiting over a week for the RMA department to finally return my request, which is a whole nother thing I'm pissed off about. Not to mention the week I wasted talking back and forth with tech support, who told me to talk to the RMA department. So we're in 2 weeks just trying to get the right cable that should have been in the box for something they said was compatible that isn't. And then when I pointed out, instead of saying, we're sorry for the inconvenience, another cable's on the way, they run me through the ringer. And anybody less technical would probably not be able to figure out how to print from that Amazon app and prove that it was new, leaving them no resort but to return the thing to Amazon and just skip on the whole idea. It is ridiculous and absolutely unacceptable that I spend that kind of money for the promise and the guarantee that this all works together. And when it doesn't, and they know why, they still have to make me prove that I bought it new? What? So for 2 weeks, this thing is sat unresolved, and it's going to be another week before we get it in the mail. So this means this build is now going to go on, like what should be a 1-day build is now an 8-week build, essentially. Ask me how I feel about that. The good news is I don't need the screen. So I can finish the build. I can show you how I put OBS and the capture card in there, because that's going to be our new streaming computer. And while I don't like how it fits together, I think it's very sophomoric, the way it goes together. I do like the way it looks. So I think it's kind of a hot dog build. It looks good and it tastes good, but you don't want to see how it's made. That's likely the last thermal take you're going to see on this channel. Just so you know, I'm not willing to spend my money to just go through being harassed. I expect appreciation for my business, and I expect good customer service. Now, if they want to send it to me for free, different story. But if I'm spending, contributions and your money that you're supporting me with, I'm not giving it to a company that behaves that way. I don't care about the product anymore. Now I care about the behavior of the company. I feel the same way about TeamViewer, and I feel the same way about Jet KVM, where the problem isn't with the product necessarily, it's with the company. Every company is allowed to make mistakes and to have oversights. What separates the good companies from the bad ones is how they respond to it. Do they respond quickly? Do they give you any hassle? Do they get you to a solution quickly? Do they make the process as painless as possible, or do they make it even more painful than it already is? Thermaltake stretched this out as long as they could. They made it far more painful to the same resolution they could have come to on the original support ticket. By having me then have to open a separate RMA ticket is a messed up process. The person that I initiated support conversation with should have been able to complete that RMA for me. This is unacceptable. They forced me to start over. And they just seem to have all the time in the world. In the meantime, I have 30 days to return it. So as they're sitting there stalling, my options to return it and give up on it and start again are diminishing back to nothing. So I was dead set I was going to finish this, even if it meant pulling the screen out and throw it in the trash can and taking it as a $90 loss. Because I do like the look of the case, and this is already our second rebuild, because the G-Scale case was equally as horrible. But we returned that. My past experience with Thermaltake is their cases are quite good. Their stuff doesn't fit together. I might as well have picked a third-party cooler and a third-party screen. It would have gone together better than this. I thought by buying it all by the same brand, it would all snap together and fit like a glove, and I paid top dollar for that convenience. But that convenience didn't exist. And I could have saved money not doing that, getting equipment that fit better, and not gone through all this harassment. So anyway, I still need to get it done. I do intend to finish what I started. I did not see any of these unnecessary obstacles in the way, or the frustration of lack of cooperation from the company's bureaucratic red tape, not just seeing common sense. It blows my mind. I cannot express how shocked I am that Thermaltake has gotten this bad, because they were getting better. Like, they were getting really good, and now they just took a massive step in the wrong direction, and they need to change. And until they do, I have no interest in
anything they make anymore. I'm so fired up about it. The biggest mistake I ever made was buying their product. I won't make that mistake again. Craig Casabona with a $20 super chat. Right on. Thank you, Craig. And let me check the email. What do we have? Oh, our friend Barry Klein sends an Amazon gift card. He said, this wonderful piece of kit deserves a gift card. I loved this stream. And he contributes $50.01. Thank you, Barry. I am honestly a little disappointed I can't complete the setup on this. But I also know that if I attempt, we're going to be here another couple hours. So I think it'll be best let Mara play with it for a while. I'm going to move on to other products we have to do. And then Mara will show me as she makes progress. She'll also be the liaison back to Minisforum for follow-up technical questions and find resolutions to just getting the basic operation. And then as far as Mara's concerned, she'll probably want to run virtual machines on this. I don't, but she might. She's likely going to. Let her do that, and then let her show me, because again, that's not a skill set I need to have. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in doing that in my business. She's interested. And just like you might be interested in some of this, I'm not telling you not to be. I'm just telling you where I'm at on it. So I kind of feel like I'm just a little disappointed it took us this long to get that little bit done. But again, I knew going into it, we're still early in development on this, and I do appreciate that Minisforum has the guts, because most companies don't, send it to us in this condition and say, have at it. So I don't want to upset them because we knew going into it, it wasn't finished yet. But I see so much potential. It's almost like somebody's offering you something and it just can't quite reach it. You see it, you see where it is, it's what you want, and you just can't reach it. So I'm a little frustrated with that, but I did that to myself. I knew what I was getting into. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today, and I hope you have a wonderful Friday and a great weekend. Let's see what else. Does Thermaltake have stateside support? I don't know. It was all done through email. Barry Klein said, what cracks me up is that Thermaltake's RMA department knows about this and yet asks for proof. Yeah, I mean, it's shocking. When I tell you the name of the screen and I tell you the name of the case, you should already know what I'm emailing you about. And that's what tech support even told me. They'll know. They're well aware of this. So then to find an excuse to not send me a stupid $2 cable. By the way, I could have gone on Amazon at any point and resolved this 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, by buying the cable or the adapter. But I've already spent so much money on that Thermaltake. This was very principle based, and I wanted people to understand this is not acceptable. If you buy something new, you should not have to repair it. You shouldn't have to buy adapters to make it work. This is the same thing we went through with the ASUS, with the ProArt motherboard and the ProArt case, that were not compatible with each other. It's very expensive stuff. One of the reasons you justify spending more, or at least I do, is if everything is labeled ProArt, it should all fit together without any fitment issues. And ASUS is like, well, that's always the way it's been until this new motherboard. Well, then why are you still recommending this case? There needs to be an update to the case, because now I have to buy a USB splitter in order to hook up everything on the case, because your new motherboard only gives me one. All the other ProArt boards always have two. Why'd you guys take it away? And why didn't you update the case? And then that's where that relationship with ASUS ended. We haven't talked to them since. I don't think they're happy. I'm not happy. But you understand, that was a lot of money. It's not like I was hodgepodging different pieces together and we'll see how they fit. These were designed to go together. Those Thermaltake parts, they advertise them designed to go together. That makes this whole thing absurd. There should be an apology and an immediate resolution with as little hassle as possible, not stalling and delays and excuses and bureaucratic red tape. Besides what's obvious, it doesn't matter when I bought it or if I bought it used. That's not the point. The point is, you say in your advertising these work together, and they don't. You know that, and you know why. And the cost of the cable, I'm not asking you for $1 million. It's a very small support fee or support cost that you know you have to absorb because of what your marketing company did. That's not my fault. I didn't make that decision.
And if you guys didn't promote it that way, I would have never bought it. So pick one. Do you want the sale or do you want the support? Or do you not want the support? If I didn't make the purchase, I wouldn't need the support. Real simple. If everything worked the way you guys said it would, this should have already been done. So that's why the whole thing is absurd and unacceptable to the extreme where I don't want to work with them anymore. It's so basic and so simple that if they can make that difficult, imagine if I had a real problem. Paul Barr said good customer service is best for a company. Of course. It's not a question of things going wrong. Every company can have products that go wrong. The question is, how do they respond when things go wrong? Are they timely in their response? Do they get you to a solution quickly? That separates good companies from bad ones. This idea that you're going to look at Amazon reviews and go, well, I see a lot of people are having problems with the product. Okay, but what's the company's response? Is the company saying, we'll help you, or is the company ghosting them? Because that is all the difference in the world. If the company responds properly, then these problems are understandable and forgivable. There's only so much control you can have over development and things that can happen in shipping that are beyond your control. What you do have control of is making the support call efficient, optimized, and as painless as possible to your customer. Thermaltake failed in every regard, every avenue, from the way they marketed it to how the parts fit together to the fact that they were well aware of it and then make me go through some bureaucratic red tape that has nothing to do with anything when I could have just sent everything back to Amazon. They already knew I bought it from Amazon. And this idea that you have to prove you bought it new, I've never heard of any professional organization have that requirement. I've been in this business a long time, and only Thermaltake is the only company that ever accused me of potentially buying something used and that they wouldn't support it if it were used. No other company that I've ever dealt with in the history of computers has ever pulled that stunt. That's a new low, and I hope other companies don't follow. And I want you to be aware of that if you buy Thermaltake, because if I were aware of it, I wouldn't have bought it. Andy says the Minisforum NAS has an identity problem. Kinda. It isn't really a NAS, is it? When you think about it, it's closer to a server than it is to a NAS. You see that NASs are getting so powerful, and the apps like Docker and things, we're already at a point where they're replacing servers. But usually where they fall short is in the amount of power a server has. Processing power and I/O power on the network. So if you have a lot of users, if you get 100 users in your company and they all need to access a NAS, that might not be adequate for bandwidth and CPU power. On the other hand, with this could easily replace most servers, as far as I can tell. And when you add your Docker apps, the things that you would be running on the server, maybe they should be selling this as an entry-level server. So you might be onto something there. David Graham said, I just uploaded my X470 BIOS 5 times to enable Windows 11, but I saved it. That's weird, but hey, sounds like you got her done. That's all that's important. And at least you didn't have to wait for anybody from support to get back to you, that you were able to do this on your own schedule. And if there was a learning curve involved, all to your benefit. John Downey said at Thermaltake, I bet the same person is both the tech support person and the RMA person. I don't think so, but you know, it'd be funny if it was. I don't care. I mean, you just trying to upset me more. Viper says, when I get the LCD screen working on the Thermaltake build, it's still not any good because the viewing angles are terrible. It's just there for fun. Like I don't really care. It's there for the aesthetic. That's what makes it even more frustrating, is something that's basically ornamental, creating not only the additional expense and the additional complexity of build, but then when they're fully aware of the build, potential issue with the wrong cable, that they don't just immediately acknowledge, we screwed up, we've changed the packaging, it sounds like you got an older one, we'll just send you the new $2 cable at no charge, we'll get it right out to you, next business day. How hard would that have been? Then I could say, okay, they acknowledged their mistake, they apologized for the inconvenience, and they didn't dilly-dally, they got it out to me right away. They didn't do any of that. And yet, I paid the same money as anybody else. I didn't get a discount, I didn't get it for free. So if this is how you treat your paying customers, maybe you shouldn't be in business. And maybe you won't be for much longer if that continues. Won't break my heart. Andy Kane said server and add Active Directory I think would be better for this so-called NAS. Perhaps. I mean, I can't see why you couldn't with this level of hardware, throw Windows Server OS on it. Well, I told you it was going to be different, so you can't say I undersold that. It's definitely very, very different. And as I mentioned, Mara's very excited to play. So I'll let her play with it, and then she can teach me what she figures out. And then, of course, we have contacts at Minisforum, so if we run into any issues we're not certain about, we can go right to the manufacturer and say, hey, can you tell us about this or that? Or, let's say, for example, there's no guest account. Is there going to be one? When can we expect it? Stuff like that. Or who knows, maybe there is one and Mara finds it. I don't know. Just to give you an example. So I think Sunday we'll pick up on the Mini ITX from Thermaltake. We'll finally get that done, and I can show you how I set up basically the streamer, which is just going to be to put a capture card in with the drivers, install OBS, and copy my OBS configuration along with my video assets. That would be like the video overlays and intros and outros. The whole thing takes maybe under 10 minutes. So when eventually that cable ever arrives, then all I have to do is hook the screen up and install the Thermaltake software to control the screen. But it's ornamental and decorative, so it doesn't stop us from finishing the build and being able to utilize it as the new streamer. The red streamer we're using now, that will be retired. I'm not sure what will happen to it other than it's going to go sit on a shelf somewhere. You never quite know when a customer is going to reach out and want to buy something. These systems are way too big to ship them. They'd be very expensive, cost prohibitive, and prone to damage. So we will, either hand deliver it or somebody will pick it up, or it'll just sit here in background decoration when we get the studio set up. I don't know yet. So that's all I can tell you for today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I want to thank Mara, of course, for all the work she does in the background with administering the channel. Our friends over at SCD Keys, that's where I get my Windows Office and Microsoft Windows product keys. The price I pay is the price you pay if you use that discount code. And I buy it the same way you do at the same price you're paying. And that meets all of my legal requirements as a business. It isn't going to burn me financially or ruin my reputation with my clients. So I've done all this research against all these other key sellers online until I found SCD Key, and I said, okay, finally we got one that's legit. They have 6 months of free support after the sale, and
I'm sure many people here have purchased from SCD Keys. If you're curious or skeptical, ask our members or ask people in the chat room, see what they tell you so that you don't think I'm coming off biased. I don't make a commission if you use the link or you don't. Some people just think everything's a conspiracy theory, and there's do your own research and make a decision that's right for you. This is what I use. I'm only telling you what I use. Some people think I'm telling them what to do. I don't care what you do. If you want to save some money and you want a legitimate product key where you've got 6 months of support, I don't know of any place where you can get it that cheap, that's legit, that's supported. You might know of a place. This is the best I've found. And trust me, my business is riding on it. So I don't take that easily. Like it's got to be got to check all the boxes to qualify. It's too much at risk for me to lose. All the links for Office and Windows product keys are in the video notes below the video. I want to shout out a thank you, of course, to our friends at Minisforum for allowing us to see this so early. I appreciate that very much. Just even when you look at the website, they say this won't be available until next month. And that should help understand why some of the hiccups are there. And I knew that when I accepted it. So that was kind of a condition I agreed upon. I was still hopeful that what I needed it to do would have already been ready, but and perhaps it is, and I'm just not quite familiar yet. So we'll follow up on this along with any updates. There will be lots of updates to this in the future, software updates. And forgetting something. Thanks, of course, to all our members for making these videos possible. Using the drives in this unit, they were all purchased with membership money and contributions for $300 a piece. We've got 5 of them. You'll see them reused in other NASs too. What else? SCD Keys, thanked Mara, thanked the members, thanked Minisforum. Gosh, it just seems like I'm forgetting some. I'm not thanking Thermaltake. All right. Andy Kane renews membership, now a member for 24 months. He says, wow, I've been a member for 2 years. Right on. Thank you, Andy. Oh, thank you to that's what I'm forgetting. Thank you, of course, to Buster, to Luke Greenia, and to Mark Gaines and Barry Klein for the Amazon gift cards today. Thank you very much. And especially our friend Buster also sent us a separate contribution, which was very generous and extremely kind and thoughtful. And I can't thank you guys enough, not only for your memberships, but just your generosity and your support and your kindness is unlike any community of this size I've ever seen on the internet. And I do hope people watching are inspired by it and want to join us and support us here. Because without you guys, this would be very different. And that's going to wrap it up for me for today. Again, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Sunday at 1 o'clock California time. Until next time, bye for now.